You know who made it.
Live from LinkedIn, it's Reveting's Whiskey Wednesday. Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday, Revenue Party people.
How's everybody doing tonight? First and foremost, yes, we are fashionably late. We did have a little bit of technical difficulty, but we are very glad that you're with us tonight. So why don't I do a PSA and jump right into this? What do you think, Jesse?
Go for it, Eddie.
Done. So first and foremost, we do want to thank all of our sponsors and partners for tonight. We will be giving away 4 giveaways, which we're going to be talking about in a sec. The first one will be a course with Troy Barter from Sales Org. The second is going to be a course with Sam McKenna for a masterclass on LinkedIn. The third is going to be Heels to Deals. And the fourth is going to be a SAS Bros limited white sweater. As normal with my PSA for alcohol, I do have to say it. Let me get into it right away. So we do not condone the use of alcohol on any level whatsoever. Neither do we promote it. You can choose to drink whatever it is that you like this evening. It could be alcoholic. It could be juice. It could be milk. It could be water. If you do drink, please do so safely and do not drink and drive. Why don't we get our guests in?
Let's do it. Welcome, Nelson. Thank you so much for being here. Can we thank you both for your quick?
Wow, I've never seen someone as nervous as Eddie there was for those.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit shaky there for a second. Like, why isn't this fucking thing working?
You want to talk about a little bit scaredy cat?
Nobody knows.
He has a big bite, but wow.
I'm usually like the punctual person, and I'm just like, this is not happening right now. How is this happening to us? We're like on time every show, and this shit took place.
It's all good. We're here now. What about a quick 30-second pitch for intro from both of you guys? Jesse, Nelson, what do you think?
Jesse, want to roll? I'll let you go first.
Thank you. Jesse, Lead Magic founder. Probably track some of the content I put out there. Emailing, sales, marketing, some of the other topics. Really excited to be here. Thank you for putting this on and looking forward to the discussion.
Woo.
Yeah, awesome. That was 30 seconds. Okay. Now you, Nelson.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for organizing and Jesse for participating. So I'm the author, creator, and founder of Marketing-Led Growth via the Buyer-Centric Revenue Model, a new B2B marketing sales model.
I love the hat.
Thanks.
Love the hat. It's like the perfect hat for this show. This is great. Absolutely. All right, so why don't we get into some comments, but at the same time, jump into first topic. What do you think? Done. We're already there. I love it. So by your preferences, marketing versus sales dev. Jesse, I'm going to you first.
Yeah. So what's the question again? Why don't you give the whole audience the entire question? So it was
the topic is buyer preferences, marketing versus sales dev. So what's happening?
So you're saying like marketing versus like a sales development. Yeah. So I think what's happening is, buyers want the information faster. And, Nelson makes a couple of great points on this, actually. And some of them are unpopular. I think what you're finding is, like, first of all, like when I buy things, I don't want to go talk to anybody unless they can either sell me the product or they can actually provide me some value, right? Like if I need help configuring it or something like that. So I think there's a unique problem going on where we've created sort of people want the information faster, but we've created a problem where it's becoming harder and harder to get because obviously the sales development role is kind of a new role, but I think where people are really getting confused is like, hey, I want to talk to the most senior person to start out the relationship with your company, and you have limited product time to look at. So I think he does bring up some good points there.
Absolutely.
I got to get Nelson's thoughts. Jesse, you were saying that.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's similar to what Jesse is saying. Things are different these days where, given the internet, given social media, buyers have access to all the information that they need, and also from their peers. And so they're in the driver's seat and they want a frictionless, non-pushy experience. And the way I draw a distinction between marketing and sales development is I consider what sales development to be doing is spam. And I see them as a marketing function and activity. And that's how I separate marketing versus sales development. And so what sales development is doing is telemarketing, which is phone spam, email spam, and LinkedIn spam, or cold messages. Sometimes they call this cold outreach or prospecting. There are different terms for it. And sales development isn't that recent. It's been around since the late 90s, early 2000s. And it basically took off what sales used to do on their plate. Sales was doing it part-time. They were doing the spam, and they started doing it full-time. And it came about because back in the day, in the pre-internet era, websites and social media and access to peers to find out about vendors, buyers weren't able to get that information from marketing. Marketing really didn't have the ability to give it to them. And so marketing couldn't even bring buyers to sales for the buyers that wanted to speak to sales. So sales had to go out there and basically spam buyers. And that's all changed, but the model hasn't. And so, you have a mixture at companies where you have marketing, you have sales development, and marketing will charm and influence and educate buyers. And at the same time, sales development will annoy buyers and spam them, turning off a subset of buyers and then pushing some buyers prematurely to sales. And so you've got two contradictory forms of marketing. One is handcuffing, crowding out, and counteracting the other. And that's why there's beef between marketing and sales development. And they're both competing for resources and budget and producing two different quality leads for sales. So marketing will produce website demo requests for sales, and sales development will produce, these appointments. And many people don't separate marketing from sales development when they analyze their total marketing efforts. They just blend the two together. But many people are starting to separate them out. And they're realizing, sometimes they call it the split the funnel test or whatnot, when they analyze the efficacy or ROI of different lead sources. But they'll look and they'll compare the leads from sales development versus marketing. They'll compare all the investment and budget for either. And then they'll realize which side their bread is buttered on, and also interviewing their buyers. And anyone who's ever been on the receiving end of sales development versus marketing, if you try to find out how buyers want to be marketed to, like I interviewed Jesse, both Jessies actually. Eddie, maybe I'll have you on next, but I've interviewed on my podcast 54 marketing and sales leaders, and here's the results. 52 prefer marketing, and 0 prefer sales development, and 2 were neutral. So if people start to do these interviews where you ask your buyers, like, hey, how do you prefer to be marketed to, or how do you become aware of vendors? You're hearing, content, events, social, community, peers, word of mouth, referral, about how they hear about vendors. I heard about Jessie Lizak from her LinkedIn social media marketing. I heard about Eddie the same way, and I heard about Jessie the same way, because we're all on this content platform, networking platform. We're all here on this LinkedIn Live. Imagine if we were trying to engage you guys by me telemarketing you, or Jesse email spamming you, or Eddie trying to
spammed you earlier, Nelson.
That's true. To be fair, I deserved it because I was super late and I thought that this was going to be a half hour later.
It was Eddie's fault, though.
It's my fault.
Yeah. So I asked the people in the interview as well. I was like, so how do you not like to be marketed to? And they say telemarketing, email spam, and LinkedIn spam. And I'll ask them, what percentage of the time does that actually cause you to buy? And they'll say like tiny negligible amount. And in those cases that they did buy, it was the vast 99.9% because they were already interested thanks to marketing or referrals from peers. and sometimes they'll just take a meeting. And this is buying. A lot of buyers, when they get spammed, will just take a meeting and kick the tires to get information they should have just gone from marketing. That's the premature buyer aspect that sales development produces. So that was a lot. I'll pause there after that little firebomb, and maybe Jesse, I'll kick it back to you, or I'll kick it back to
before we get
Eddie.
into that. So Saad actually has a question for Nelson. It's good that Nelson, you're actually on right now. So Saad asks, Nelson, what are your thoughts on companies where SDRs are owning and closing pipeline, getting marketing to H1 targets by converting leads?
Yeah, so this is a good question, Saad. So an SDR that also owns and closes pipelines is basically an SDR and an AE combined, also known as a full sales cycle seller, which I think is the worst. And so basically what it's saying to this person is marketing is not going to support you to the extent that buyers want and need your help. You're going to have to go do marketing and generate leads through spam. Also, you're going to do the AE part of the sales process, which is to help the buyer with the initial sale and then throw them over the fence to a different seller, which is the customer success manager, to help with expansion, retention, post-sale fulfillment, adoption, and implementation. And so you're a partial seller and you're a partial marketing spammer. It's the
like
worst
player
of both.
Coach, sales coach, manager. You're kind of both, right?
Yeah.
In a similar sense, I guess to Jesse's point, a player coach is where you have someone who's managing the team and is also like
has a quota,
performing the role.
Kind of doing both. And yeah, I see what you're saying.
I can't get over how Nelson just so matter-of-factly refers to it as spam.
All spam.
You got to know the definition of spam, right? That's hard.
Yeah. Oh, and just to define spam, because it took me a little while to like realize what is the difference between marketing and sales development, and why I've been in sales development, and why is sales development failing today? Why is it so miserable? Why does it feel like marketing while selling your soul? Well, it's because the definition of spam is unconsented marketing solicitations with a product pitch or a request to speak to sales to a buyer's private inbox. And that's their phone inbox, their email inbox, or their LinkedIn inbox, or their physical home and work address. So that's why when sales development takes the shape of telemarketing, email spam, and LinkedIn spam, it's spam. The whole role is designed to spam. You take young kids out of college, you lure them into a spam role, you give them quota and commission, which marketing doesn't have. So you give them this short-term goal that's tied to 50% of their salary. That's what commission is. It's 50% of their salary withheld pending their quota attainment. You have a public performance scoreboard like no other department where you compare people's performance against each other, your monthly appointment setting, for healthy competition. But the real reason is so that they get you to do pressure marketing. They give you like spam activity quotas to, and people cannot wait to get out of that role. And I couldn't wait to get out of it. And that's why sales development, if you look at them org-wide, they're suffering high turnover, low tenure, low performance, and low job satisfaction. You're looking at 40% turnover. You're looking at something like more than half of sales development teams are failing, because even this is just according to sales development standards of meetings booked, let alone everything that happens after the meeting that actually matters. And so, they're suffering today because that's the nature of the role that everyone tries to hide under a lot of euphemisms like cold outreach spam, outbound spam, prospecting spam. So I say this not to because it took me a while. It took me ages to sort of uncover all this garbage euphemisms so that people can understand this problem and speak clearly and not try to put lipstick on a pig, so that we can actually achieve progress and liberate sales development, which is good talent in a bad role, and help them transition to marketing. I think is the best way. And then from there, either they stay in marketing and they enjoy all the great things that marketing is doing. There's so many great jobs in marketing. It's creative, it's fun, it's whatever. It's got something for everything. Or they could go into operations, or they could go into sales. But my first recommendation for people that have sales development and for SDRs is to try to escape from the role as fast as possible. If you're more than 6 months within your tour of duty because you got your year promotion into sales and you want to go into sales, then stick it out. But if you don't want to go into sales and you're less than 6 months in your required tour of duty, I would look elsewhere. And it's anyone go find a entry level marketing role, marketing specialist, marketing coordinator, marketing generalist.
Yeah. 100%. Like if I were going to advise somebody who's starting off their career, I know, Eddie, you're probably like, what? Because I know you train and you like to help build up SDRs, which is great. But like, if I were really thinking about it, if I were really concerned about their future, I would be training them on marketing.
The problem
here's
is
the thing,
I have not seen any company that actually invests in SDRs to become marketers. I've just never seen. I honestly have never seen it. And I mean, obviously their title is sales, so it's like, well, why are we going to? That's where the division really comes, and it's really. I mean, I've never seen. Like, I knew pretty much nothing about marketing for a while. I mean, I was a sales rep, right? And I mean, now, like, maybe that's just because of the talent pool and kind of bigger SaaS companies is a lot more agencies that are helping with some of the more valuable efforts because the scale problem, right? They have to scale. I mean, a lot of the marketing people in SaaS companies have to scale so fast that they're essentially project managers, right? Because they have to hire agencies. They have to hire, like, their job is to really get they have to grow at 40%, right? That's like an impossible task. And I think that's where some of this problem is coming from.
So there is one thing that I definitely want to say, and this something happened today that, and me and Jesse have talked about this many times. Like, I'm a salesperson that has an affinity for marketing. It's something that I'm every day seem to like more and more. So today I had a conversation about an advisor role that I'll be walking into. And when the time came about awareness, something came up, and it was an idea of like doing graphics, right? Because there was something lacking in the company of doing more graphics. So I suggested that I do graphics. And funny enough, the conversation completely pivoted into, well, we can do more together. Because clearly when it comes to social, especially from a sales standpoint, there isn't enough people in the sales realm doing marketing. We talked about that last week and the week before about salespeople doing more marketing doing more sales, and etc. But it's funny how the conversation pivoted into, oh, you can also do this.
You can do that? Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Well, we should reconsider the contract. And I'm like, absolutely. But that's the thing. Like, I do have to agree with Nelson on that part.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still biased towards the idea that I've been a salesperson my entire life. But I'm a salesperson that's slowly but surely, like, there's an inclination moving towards marketing, but not in the sense that I'm going to go into marketing. Just I want to develop more marketing aspects within my sphere, like in utilization with what I know in sales, so that I can utilize that to emphasize on what I'm trying to do. And I feel like, look at what we've been doing with WW, right? All the stuff that you see.
We've built a brand. We didn't spam anybody.
One person.
We starting in February, we showed up every Wednesday, whether we had 5 people here with us or whether we had 100 people here with us, and we remained consistent, and we built a brand. So that's how Wednesday happened.
For anyone who's watching, if you do not know this, everything that you see from graphics to this right now on the podcast, everything that was done is me and Jesse. It's just us two. It's people, Jesse coming from sales, me still being in sales. She's in marketing. I have an inclination towards marketing, but everything you see is between me and her. Just to show you that there is power behind that, truly. There really is.
This is a really good example of proper marketing. And there are a lot of sellers that are actually marketers trapped in sellers' bodies.
Yeah.
They like to market. They like to influence and persuade and be creative and do all the type of marketing stuff, but they're actually in a sales role. So if you look at Laura or Erdem, the Danish girl from dreamdata.io, or if you look at Arthur, I can't remember his last name, from
Castillo, I told him to quit as fast as possible and go to marketing.
That's what I said to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was in marketing originally. Then I tried out. I was like, I wonder what sales is like. Then they're like, hey, you want to join sales? Here's this crappy SDR role. And then here's this lame sales role. And I was like, whoa, this sucks. And so, especially since buyers today, they want marketing and little to zero sales. You think about this in your own personal life. It's the same thing in B2B. So what does marketing do today? It's content, it's events, it's social, it's communities, it's the website, it's buyer self-service, free trials, freemium, live chat, whatever. It's anything on the website. It's ads. It's 1,000,001 things that they're doing. And I outline in the book like 30 of them and all these different tactics. It's this right now, what Jesse and Eddie has put together. It's a lot of stuff that Jesse does on LinkedIn, Ouellette. It's really confusing. You have 2 Jessies here, but they're both doing good stuff. I had both Jessies on the podcast, we're just jamming about topics. So that's all examples of proper non-spam modern marketing. And so there are companies who I share some examples like Cognism and Sales Whale, who basically transition their sales development into marketing. So there's a process I outline that companies can do the same. And so those are two examples, but basically you can help them transition in a few different steps. And basically there's two things. One, you automate website demo request qualification, scheduling the website. There's software for that. And then you repurpose the SDRs accordingly to help out with marketing. And then also the second thing is you gradually reduce their spam activities by 25% increments, and you give them full quota and commission relief accordingly. They'll be thrilled. And then you repurpose them to help out with marketing. So you gradually reduce the SDR spam stuff and you have them do marketing stuff, and you track all your metrics and you give them commission and quota relief. They're going to be so thrilled. And marketing, there's so many different things that different roles within marketing to help out with content, social events, community partnerships, referrals, whatever. There's a bajillion things that they could be doing. A lot of SDRs in the role today who are still SDRs, who still get screwed over with commission and quota activities and all the things. They're desperately trying to do proper marketing anyways and be active on LinkedIn or whatever and do whatever, because that's what actually worked. But they're handcuffed because they got to make 50 telemarketing calls, 50 spam emails, and they got half their salaries withheld pending their short-term quota attainment. So, which marketers don't have. And so if you want a marketer to generate demand, then what you want is marketing, is not an SDR and it's not a salesperson. If my opinion on sales people doing marketing is a salesperson can do marketing in addition to marketing, supplying the salesperson with leads. But that's icing on the marketing cake. And they should only do it through proper marketing, which many sellers already do, which is like content, social, and referrals of their network, not spamming people.
What about we do a giveaway?
I think it's time for a giveaway.
I think it's time for a giveaway. Let's do this shit. All right, so
do it.
What I'd like to do, and let's go back into this beautiful page here. The first one we're going to give away tonight is, this is a masterclass in LinkedIn from Sam Sales. If you do not know who Sam Sales is, go on and search for Sam McKenna. She was actually on our show here with Ricky Pearl. Brilliant. And this thing is worth, I think, just over $250 US. So what I'd like to see inside of the comments is hashtag masterclass. So go ahead and put hashtag masterclass inside the comments. I've already started pulling the data from here. Go ahead and put, again, hashtag masterclass. In about 5 minutes or so, I'm going to go ahead and pull that and give it away. We still have 3 more prizes after this. So just go ahead and put in hashtag masterclass. Let's get that given away somebody tonight.
Hashtag masterclass.
All right. So any comments, Jesse, on your part, or you want to just jump into a second topic, or?
No. Is everybody seeing the hashtag? Okay, now I'm starting to see them flood through. That's right. Hashtag masterclass, y'all. Let's move into the second topic. Sales is often unnecessary. Nelson, do you mind if we start with you on this topic? Let's get into it. So what are your thoughts on this topic of sales often being unnecessary? Why do you think that if it's unnecessary, so many teams still have it? And, where do we go from here?
Yeah, sure. So buyers want most, if not all, of the information needed to become aware of, learn, try, and buy the product on their own, thanks to marketing and marketing's influence on their peers. And so the website is a 24/7 marketer and seller, and the best a company has. And so when I've interviewed 50 buyers, and you look at Gartner, Miller Hyman, and all the other Forrester and all the other allegedly at the forefront analyst companies, they've made the realization that buyers want more marketing and way less sales, ideally zero sales. They want to get that information from their peers, from the website, from social media, from YouTube. And so this is the data from my own podcast, 54 people I've interviewed. And you can think of marketing as like enabling buyer to self-serve versus having to speak to a human to buy. So 46 out of the 54 people want marketing. 7 people out of the 54 people were neutral, and 1 person of 54 preferred sales. And I'm pretty sure she wasn't being honest with me. And so,
can I ask who it was, or is it confidential?
No, actually, yeah. But I think she was a little bit like, because I take them down a sort of a route, and then I ask them that question. They're like, "Uh-oh, I'm afraid to say what I actually believe."
Anyway, they don't want to get canceled.
They don't want to get canceled
by the,
But the idea is like buyers want to self-serve thanks to marketing. They don't want to go through this whole song and dance with sales. Now, when they do, which is sometimes, particularly if it's a complex product or complex pricing or org-wide rollout, and it's not like a plug and play product or whatever, and it's not like a inexpensive product, then they might want to talk to sales. And when they do it, they want to explicitly request to speak to sales. They don't want to be spammed by someone to speak to sales. They want to just hit the request a demo button and automatically book a time with the seller and not have to deal with manual demo request qualification by an SDR. Oops, sorry. See, that was the alarm from what I thought this was, just for the record. Yeah. So anyway, now, but buyers, they're finding out from marketing's peers. Peers are telling them all this stuff. They're going to the website or they're going to YouTube or whatever, and they're finding out all about the product and pricing and integrations, and see a demo on the website. You can put an interactive demo tool. You can put all the information on your website. It's there all the time for your buyers to look at. And so that's what they want. But when they do go to sales, by the time they get to sales, they're already like 80% plus along their buying journey, thanks to marketing. They're well informed and they're serious about buying. They just might have a few like questions like, hey, I couldn't really suss this out. Or you know what, I just want to make sure, can you just help me understand X, Y, and Z? Sales today, where a buyer needs a human, is mostly post-sale fulfillment. So sales today is mostly CSM or mostly customer success than it is account executive. It's mostly about customizing the product, implementing the product, adoption, and then helping with any expansion retention. But that's kind of like the effect of if the first stuff goes well, the buyer's going to buy more and they're going to refer and whatever. But it's mostly post-sale fulfillment. So my advice to people when they're looking at sales is, first of all, don't overinvest in sales. Marketing precedes sales chronologically and hierarchically. Sales today is a support function to marketing, so sales should report into marketing. If you're going to have a CRO, it should be marketing and not sales, which it is almost exclusively nowadays. But the other thing is combine the AE and CSM role and call it customer success. So you don't need to have the sales assembly line of the account executive and then who helps you with the initial sale, but then you have a sales engineer who actually can demo the product and has product expertise. Then you have a customer success manager who will help with adoption implementation. And then you might have an account manager whose job is basically like the AE, but post-sale. He's going to help, or she's going to help with expansion, retention, cross-sell, upsell. So you might have like 4 different sellers. And don't confuse customer success with customer service, which is a department to help with like end users and the tickets of like, hey, I'm having problem logging in, please help me. And so combine that function so you don't have this bloated sales org of partial sellers, which, by the way, sales, like sales development, is also suffering today. High turnover, low tenure, low performance, low job satisfaction. So it's not like sales development and sales are killing it. If they are, then everything I'd be saying wouldn't make sense. But they're not. They're suffering. And so, and it's for a reason. And companies' growth and profits are harmed for that. And so, so that's what I would say about buyer preferences between marketing and sales. They want way more marketing, little to zero sales. The sales they do want, or human assistance, is mostly post-sale fulfillment.
All right. I'm going to give away the gift right before we jump into Jesse's opinion. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Get right into that right now. So we had a good amount of people jump in. So let's go ahead and draw that for the sales masterclass. Pamela Berner. All right.
Congratulations, Pamela Berner.
So, Pamela, we're going to put you in touch with Sam McKenna by DM, so that way she can send you over whatever it is. I think it's a code that she's going to give you. You can go ahead and input that in there. And then from that point, you're going to be the lucky winner of the masterclass on LinkedIn.
Woohoo!
So let me go ahead and stop sharing the screen. Jesse, how about this? I want to jump in your opinion, but as we do that, I'm also going to go ahead and start the second prize of the night. And this one's going to be from Troy Barter. It's going to be the Sales Tech Masterclass. In this case, I'm just going to write Pamela Berner's name here. All right, we got that. So the second prize of the evening is going to be, I'm going to have to take down the banner, Jesse. There we go. So it's going to be Troy Barter's Sales Org Full Tech Sales Course. For this one, what I'm asking everybody, just simply put in hashtag Troy. Just put in hashtag Troy, and let's get those things going right now. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen here. Put in hashtag Troy. This is worth just over, I think, $500 US. So, and look, I mean, I signed up for it. I bought it from him. It's an unbelievable course so far. And only a couple of modules have already been opened. So go ahead and just press in your hashtag Troy. Let's get going. So, Jesse, why don't you kick us off with your opinion on this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because I was in sales, and I kind of looked at it from the other way. Like, I wanted the company to be successful, but I knew, and I could have gone out and just rolled the dice on my territory. And when you get to the senior levels of sales and enterprise software, you really are rolling the dice, because what happens is there's probably like, you're more likely to get the better territories. There's only, let's say there's like 4 or 5 good territories, right? You're like, okay, you're going to get one of those, and then you're rolling the dice again, because you're basically in a position where you have to take the best. You're taking the best territory, but then you're rolling the dice because it's like luck, right? Like there's definitely a luck factor, and if you're only spread, they give you fewer accounts when you get more senior, right? So I was down to the Fortune 50 down, and look, every year I managed to make something happen. But what I noticed was I could put as much work in as possible and not get the outcome of more. Like it wasn't linear, right? Like the time that I was spending wasn't producing more results. It was kind of working the opposite direction, actually. And it was starting to see a really bad diminishing return when I got to the kind of top. Then I kind of talked to a CRO that I was working for, and I said, listen, I just think you're running this place completely just terrible. And I don't think it's going to last. I think you're going to get fired. I've seen most of my friends in these positions get fired. And, I just don't think it's going to work out. And I think you're going to get fired too. And when I told him that, he said, you're right. It's going to happen. Do you want to run sales strategy for me? And I didn't even really know the CRO at the time. Now, of course, we're close friends, and I still advise for him. But, we did that there, and he actually ended up leaving the next day after he promoted me. So then we went to another company together, and it was kind of a similar situation, kind of a little bit of a, got to keep that email signature on your email, and then that one kind of blew up in my face. So what the problem is that more time doesn't always equal more results when you get more senior in sales. So I think what that's going to do is that's going to produce a level of side hustle, right? Like that's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see that, or you're going to see more people start their own business. Now, when I started my own business, I was like, how do I get people to sign up with a credit card as fast as possible? I don't want to be on any calls. So I then took my sales approach, and I'm like, wow, this is great. I don't have anybody telling me what calls I have to be on or who I have to service, right? I can just be I could do whatever I want, create as much demand as I want through social media, through community efforts or whatever. And there's no, like, the whole idea of that gate being in front of you in a beautiful open field is gone, right? You could just do that. Now you got to budget your time and things like that. But right now I'm planning on trying to scale as much as I can through people signing up online. And in fact, it's sometimes I got to really fix it, but getting on the call with me right now is hard to get to, right? Like I tried not to make it easy, because I want them to be in an annual subscription, or I want them to be, because there's people that will come in, they'll talk to you on like LinkedIn. They're trying to get a call. They're trying to get they're trying to get consulting, right? And that's not what I'm selling right now, right? Like I'm not selling expertise. I'm not selling time. I'm selling, a recurring business model. So you do whatever you can do to basically kind of avoid giving up your time. And that's what I think is weird. I think if you're a salesperson, you're kind of disagreeing with Nelson, right? What I'd say is go start your own business and run marketing. And then you'll start to realize, you're going to start to realize what you feel like. Now, if a product's over $10,000 a year, it's very unlikely that you're going to sell it without a salesperson. But if you start to look at some of the models of Microsoft, Amazon, Google, IBM, they've really gone to more of a customer success model. And I think that's really where a lot of sellers are going to have to go, right? They're trying to get rid of the friction with their customers. They want you in a consumption model. They want you buying based on you're using the product and you're getting impact. And he makes a lot of great points. Some of them I disagree with certain ones, not very many though. That's kind of the, just because I've been through the journey on both sides, sales and marketing and engineering for that matter, right? So I know all three sides, and I've launched a successful SaaS business. So, it's an interesting perspective that he has. And I guess being a founder and an owner of a business, it's kind of an interesting one for everybody to think about.
And I think what's important is that you try to have it be ideal. The whole point of a model is that you give a general rule of thumb, not a one size fits all, but here's an ideal to strive for to whatever extent that you can, given your industry, your product, how much you sell your product, how complex your product is. And to the extent your buyers want and need sales as help, then you give them sales. If they don't want and need sales as help, then let them buy the product on the website, let them try the product on the website. And if they want sales is an option. Sales is an option. And there's that demo request button. They know where to speak to sales.
That's what my gap
and
is.
and that's it. And that salesperson or that human should be the same person that helps them with post-sale fulfillment. I don't think that you should chuck them over the fence, because that salesperson who's helping that buyer to buy is typically only helping to influence their decision by 10, 15, 20%. I was in sales, and I realized when marketing is done well, you need little to zero sales. And I was influencing basically very little. But my role as like a salesperson was actually really more post-sale fulfillment. It was helping them to adopt, implement, be successful. It's the customer success side of the house. And so if you look at companies today, and Jesse, you asked, why are companies still in the sales-led growth model from the 1980s? It's because no one had come along to say, hey, here's a different model and here's how you get there. Now, the product-led growth movement. Now, product-led growth is a euphemism for a free trial or freemium, which is an aspect of marketing-led growth. It's one of many tactics that marketing does to get people to try the product, talk about it, whatever. Some subset of them will buy the product, but it's one of many marketing-led growth tactics. So if people would to just realize that, hey, that's one of many, and you realize it's like for growing back in the day in the 1980s, sales-led growth, if you wanted to grow a company, then you hired salespeople. You prioritize sales to grow and profit. Today, it's marketing. So if you do have salespeople, just make sure that you don't put the cart before the horse. You get marketing, done first, and you let the customer, buy, try the product, and there's sales as an option. And you don't overweight investment in sales. You don't have this bloated sales org that marketing is not doing its job, and sales is not, not doing its job in the way that the buyer wants it. So you just need to give people a different model, show them how to get from the old model to the new model. And so that's why I went through all this trouble and to do that, because I, like Jesse, saw that things were really messed up, as a lot of people, I think, realize that something's wrong in B2B, that B2B is stuck in the dark ages and needs to modernize. But how are we going to get there? Because a lot of people are still drinking the 1980s sales-led growth Kool-Aid.
Well said. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump into the prize, since we're going to get into another topic. Let's go ahead and draw for Troy's prize, of course, for the Sales Org Masterclass. Who's going to win? Wow. All right, Evan Smith. Congratulations, Evan. Congratulations. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be DMing you after this. I have a code that was given to me directly by Troy. This will be able to discount the entire course. So I will reach out to you after the show and we'll get this done. So let me go ahead and stop sharing this. Now I'm going to go ahead and just jump immediately into the third prize before the sweater at the end. I know a couple people were waiting for this so that we can jump into the third topic. If you would like the Heels to Deals book, I know a couple people mentioned it earlier. I want to just go in and press hashtag H2D. Just press hashtag H2D. That is all that we need tonight. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm getting this done right here. Boom. So just press hashtag H2D. And I'll be able to give you this book here that Heidi and many people have written. Even Amelia has, I think has a chapter in this. So go ahead and just press hashtag H2D. Why don't we jump into immediately in the third topic? Jesse, why don't you lead us in? You're on mute, Jesse, but thank you.
How did I get on mute? Okay. All right, let's do it. So third topic, are we ready to hop into it?
Yes, we are.
Pull it up. So number 3, sales can do more harm than good relative to marketing. So this kind of goes along with that whole theme we're talking about here, right? So I think our last topic, we started off with Nelson. Sales can do more harm than good relative to marketing. I guess what comes to my mind before I hand it over to you, Jesse, is, with marketing email, we're always emailing people who ask to be emailed, right? The opt-ins. And so I feel like there's a little less harm that you can do there compared to, say, like a cold email. So that's just one example, but that's immediately what comes to the top of my head. Jesse, why don't you take it away and tell us?
Yeah, this might be the only area that I might even have a little bit of a I think Nelson does bring up some good points, and I really do like listening to the counter kind of argument to a lot of the people that are living in the echo chamber. But one area that I think where you got to look at what they're so close. Sales and marketing are getting so close together now, right? And that's the premise of the show here. But what I'm starting to see is like, there's even ad spam now, right? So I think that what you really got to talk about more is the actual output, right? So let's talk about like email, right? Cold emails to people who haven't subscribed to your emails. If it's B2B, for me, that's fine. It's an asynchronous event. You're not taking their time. You're not doing that. If you're running an ad while they're on LinkedIn, fine, right? I'm still fine with that. I mean, I can report them as spam. I can disable the ad. I think the area that I might kind of disagree with a lot of the different sales development folks is, first of all, cold calling, right? Like, I think you've kind of gone to another level where you've got their number, you've downloaded it off something, you're now calling them. And, I think there is you're interrupting them, right? Like, you're taking their time, and they don't have a choice sometimes because of the way caller ID works. It doesn't work very well, right? There's no way to know who that person is on the other line definitively. So you run into a lot of that. And that's the one area that, I'd say you're taking an asynchronous event, you're interrupting their day, and you're spoofing your number, right? So I think I draw the line there. Now, email, I don't really think it's that much different than an ad on LinkedIn. And that's where I think maybe Nelson and I might have a little bit of a disagreement, but like, and as long as you're doing B2B, which is legally all right, like, I think you're fine there. And then I think LinkedIn, same kind of idea, right? Like, I can report them as spam. I don't have to read it right away. It doesn't block anything else going on. I'm not like, it's not like a phone call. I have to pick up the phone when it calls because, I have wife and kid. So like, that's kind of what I think personally, but that's kind of where I come from. So I don't know, Nelson, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So
there's ad spam too now, right?
Yeah. So I was a little bit confused by these two questions. The one that we just talked about where sales is unnecessary, because the way I originally offered this as a suggestion was sales is often unnecessary and does more harm than good relative to marketing. So just keeping the context of the full question, I think it just kind of got separated piecemeal. So let me just say that spam is a marketing activity to generate demand in the worst possible way. It is like the junk food of marketing, and it's not a sales activity. Even though that historically sales got stuck spamming people because marketing in the 1980s didn't have all the ability it had today to give buyers the information that they want in a non-spam way. And so sales had to go out and like spam people. But yeah, the way that I define spam and how that's different from marketing. If I were just to summarize this, if I were speaking to my grandmother, I would say this: bad marketing is better than no marketing, but good marketing is better than bad marketing. So another way of saying that is sales development is better than no marketing, but marketing is better than sales development. And so if you keep that context in mind, and again, companies have a mixture of both of that because sales development is spamming people, marketing is doing proper modern non-spam marketing. If you analyze those two together, you'll see, again, the results. And also you compare the investment and budget that goes into either. And if you start to do those experiments where I look at the example companies that have transitioned or sunsetted sales development and repurposed that talent, liberated that talent to marketing, have seen the results. When you speak to your buyers or anyone introspects in the receiving end. I mean, again, think about what we're doing here. This is an example of proper marketing. This is not telemarketing, email spam, or LinkedIn spam. So you're all here. I'm not sure if you guys would still be here if after this I would telemarket all of you guys, and if you would come back more if I tried to get you, hey, go buy my marketing growth book. So I would say if you're doing spam today, then it, again, the reason why people do it is because it'll work some tiny percentage of the time. But oftentimes because companies have a mixture of proper marketing, but even if not, it'll work some percentage of the time for some, but you're leaving the 99.9% of the market who does not want to be spammed and wants proper marketing, and you have that whole growth opportunity there. So if you really want to, unlock growth, then do proper marketing like this, and you'll reach much more customers, much bigger audience, and you generate referrals and word of mouth, and you have the compounding yield of proper marketing because you built a good reputation. Sales development does not build compounding yield or word of mouth or referrals or reputation. It's more like compounding loss. So
there are marketing teams though that I think this is one area that like proper marketing is kind of like it sounds good, but there are some I could point out there's some marketing teams that are spamming really bad, right? Like, and they even have more like whether it's ads or whether it's like cold, they're using email, right? Like they're using, I mean, they have they're not supposed to be doing it, but they pull lists from Zoom Info all the time, and then they'll just dump it in. Obviously hurts their reputation as a domain, but I think there are, like, my experience hasn't been that they're marketing, like there's definitely a spectrum of marketing teams out there, right, in different companies, and you'll see companies that are just getting like crazy on the marketing side with their spam, and they're trying to go after the MQLs. They're trying to get you into like, like I'm getting the LinkedIn, like, do you want a $50 demo ones? Like Metadata runs that all the time, that one where they're doing it. And that's like pretty much what an SDR would be doing. Like I get that one all. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts about?
Yeah, I don't approve. First of all, I don't approve of bribery like Metadata. And I had Jason on, who's their VP of marketing at Metadata.
I thought that was bribery, and I think that's a bad market. I think it's a terrible strategy.
Yeah, so did I. And I think his audience thought so too. Now, bribery via gift cards or direct mail to take a demo. Yeah, no. And now the fact that it doesn't matter who's spamming. Is it HR? Is it finance? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it sales development? Is it the CEO? It doesn't matter who's doing the spam. But I would say it's the nature of sales development, the full function of that job to spam full time. Now, marketing ads. So ads on a public or private platform with user consent agreement to ads are not spam. So you don't have to use Facebook. You don't have to use LinkedIn. It's part of the user consent agreements. And ads are one of many, many marketing tactics. Obviously, no one particularly likes ads. So it's not a great marketing tactic, but it's not spam. And so it's you can't conflate the two or lump them both together. Technically speaking, strictly speaking. Although sure, yeah, I mean, ads just kind of suck. It's compared to other avenues. So now the other thing that I'll say is marketing emails. So yeah, if marketing is sending the emails, whoever's doing the spam, it's still spam. I don't think marketing should be doing that, or sales should be doing that, or HR. What you have today, an issue, is that marketing is forced to support sales development because sales development needs a constant high volume of contact information of uninterested buyers to spam through in order to get some of those buyers to sales while turning off a whole bunch of others. That contact information of uninterested buyers are what marketing qualified leads are. So marketing will do all this stuff to get buyers to engage with marketing and, come to events or whatever. Like, for example, if you guys had to give your email to attend this event or something like that to get the calendar, what marketing would then do would give that to sales development to then spam you all after to buy my amazing book or Jesse's lead magic or, a BDEX for Jesse Lezak. So, so that's the role that kind of marketing is being forced to do today, is to support spam, is to support sales development. And which is why you have this whole fight between marketing and sales development. Marketing is trying to break free of the MQL hamster wheel. They have the lead gen versus demand gen. Lead gen is a euphemism for the process of generating MQLs. You've got all these different things where marketing is trying to liberate itself and trying to basically be the center stage of driving growth and profit at companies, but they can't because they're stuck in this straitjacket.
I'm going to give the person with the least control of this. This is the actual point, though, is like the person with the least control over this problem is the sales development person. And I think if you're going to you don't want to blame people because that tears apart the moral fabric, but that's what everybody wants to do, right? And I think the person you've got to blame the least would be the sales development rep, because revenue leaders are putting them in a very bad spot. Not only that, I mean, like, their emails aren't working. They're getting blocked on LinkedIn now. Like, they're putting them in a really, really bad spot. And then you then couple that with who's got the second least control over it. It's usually the marketing team, I'd say. And then I think sales as a whole.
50% of sales development teams report into marketing. So the companies that I'm seeing and the examples I've shown that are able to achieve marketing-led growth faster and liberate themselves from sales-led growth are where sales development reports into marketing, because then marketing can then run these experiments and compare marketing to sales
But who
development.
does marketing report into? Or the marketing report to the CEO?
The marketing will either report into the CEO or sometimes into a CRO who is very hey, you can run with sales development. I'm just focusing on sales, but you're all the marketing.
See,
and I'll
I've
take care
seen
of the
that
AEs.
CRO problem too, where you have a sales, like 87% male role, right? Out of all the, I did a checked it out, and it's a sales dominant
background.
Like, you know what I'm talking about? And they're just
Yeah.
like, yeah, you just run the sales development team, fire whoever you want, right? Like I've seen that group of people too. And I don't think that works either. Sometimes you're just leaving them on an island on the marketing team, and it's not as good as you think. You're actually hurting that group of people. I mean, that's where you get tons of churn, right? That group. But like I've seen that.
Yeah, if you look at CROs, you look at VP of sales, they've got the worst tenure and it has been declining since 2011, like tremendously. So
14 months right now.
Sales leaders should really think about that because if they're setting up their team for failure, which they are, they're setting up SDRs for failure. And you're right that they are not the ones to blame. It's the people who should know better, and we should be trying to help liberate SDRs. But it's the revenue leaders, it's the CMOs and the CROs and the heads of sales who should know better and who should be having a better model, because you can see that the model is not working, and it's not working for the leaders either, because right behind sales is marketing with low leadership tenure, but it's particularly sales. It's like less than 11 months if you're at a startup, and if it's not at a startup, it's something like maybe it's like 14, 15 months and it's declining. So it's pretty sad. And it's the same for sellers too. Sellers are something like 12 months. SDRs is something like 9 months or something. It's low. So tenure is not
you're better
looking
off
good.
As a seller just taking the base salary of the next job. Sometimes like you get a draw and you take that. Like I have buddies, they take the next draw, right? They're like, I'm taking the next draw on the next job because I already know my quarter's not going to be good and I'm going to close a big deal this quarter. What are we doing from there's a problem there, right?
Well, that's one of the unattractive things about sales and sales development is commission, because commission is 50% of your salary withheld pending your short-term quota. And every other department gets a full salary plus bonus. They get the full cake plus the icing. Whereas sales or sales development gets half the cake and then maybe the other half of their cake, but it's largely outside their control. And then maybe they get some icing on top of the cake, which is the uncapped commission, which is if you make back your full salary after hitting your quota attainment, anything you exceed over quota is your uncapped commission. And most sellers miss, and sales, I'm talking about sales development, but sales development too. Most sales and sales development people, like more than 50%, miss their quota most of the time. So you're not even recouping the 50% of your salary. So I think it's unfortunately, I think sales today, and I was in sales and I experienced these things. It's one of the things that I think that makes sales very undesirable as a job, as a profession, unfortunately, because even if you do the sales role right, in my opinion, as an AE, CSM combined, basically customer success, a lot of the times you're selling them with commission and quota. Now, I mentioned companies in the book that don't have commission and quota, examples of them. And I'm sure there's many more that I'm not aware of. And there's a way that I recommend that companies experiment to stop using commission and experiment with full salary and bonus, at least offer your sellers both and let them choose, like they choose health insurance plans. But you can experiment with that and see how it shakes out, see how performance shakes out. But yeah, a lot of sales leaders are waking up to that fact because
the company's valued on long-term value of growth of the company, and salespeople. That was my biggest challenge with sales. Was I was being measured on short-term wins, and the company was being measured on long-term. So I'm, in a sense, and I'm in a big conflict, right? If my partner in marketing has a 90-10 comp plan and I have a 50-50, and then they put some accelerant on top of that, now I'm a maniac in that company trying to go get all these deals done, right? Like that's another kind of outlier that happens a lot. Like, some of these reps, you could be talking, $5-6 million type deals of commission check, and you've got a bunch of people around you that are like, even your manager, right, might not even be, they're on like a 60-40, 70-30. That's where it gets really tricky, is when you're a sales rep, you're a high performing sales rep, and you're late in your career and you're looking at like $1 million check, and your marketing counterpart is a 90-10. They're like, why do you care so much? Right. That's
And you would want, if you're like an enterprise seller at a company and you're being paid a full salary plus bonus like every other department, which is what I would want, because it's not, there's so many disadvantages of commission, and $1 of commission is not equal to $1 of salary plus bonus, because you're getting the full salary plus bonus. You'd probably get at an enterprise sales company where you're a top seller, I would say then you pay them like top people in any other department with a full salary plus bonus. So they get 100% salary plus bonus for their performance. That's their variable performance.
No, but what I was saying was like, let's say you're a top seller, you're an enterprise seller. Like look at RepView, like look at like a top seller today gets 150, 200, 200 target earnings, right? If you go out and you do 4 million on a $1 million plan, you're going to make $1 million at that company, right? 1 million W2, right? And as a seller, to do that, you do need support of other people in the company. And if your incentives are 50-50 and you're tied to 1 or 2 deals that really require other people in the company, that's where it gets really bad, is that you get a bonus, of course, but your variable compensation is tied to the efforts of others.
If sales is influencing less than 20% of the buyer's decision to buy, because marketing is doing that and marketing is influencing the peers, it's not the 1980s anymore, where it was like sales had all that information and a buyer needed to go to sales and sales would take them through this whole convoluted selling process to take them from 0 to 100%. And so, if you're a seller today, you could do everything right, but it's still up to the buyer to buy, and the buyer may decide not to, even though they can and should. And there's so many different factors. There's so many problems with no other department would want commission. Commission is like the one, it's anecdotally and it's a drawback, a negative on sales. Like, who wants to work with 50% of their salary withheld pending their quota attainment? Which, by the way, quotas, I mean, don't get me started on quotas relative to goals. So if you're smart financially, you would realize, no, give me the full salary and bonus like every other department, and no other department is suffering like sales is, believe me, or sales development. And put that money, like if you go work for the man, you take that good predictable revenue, that good cash flow and income that comes in every month, and you invest that and you save that into other things. And that's what happens if you don't have your own business. That's how you go about stuff financially. So I've been in commission at 2 different companies, and I have spoken to a lot of different people who've been under commission. It sucks. Maybe some small people some of the time might make like a big commission check, but relative to having a steady full salary and bonus and none of the gimmicks that come with commission and quota, oh my God, please give me the $150,000, $200,000 like guaranteed full salary plus bonus, and none of this commission quota nonsense. That's a great compensation package.
I love this topic, period. I'm going to give away a prize, but I want to say something after that prize. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. We got the prize that a lot of people have been waiting for also coming, but let's see who's going to win the Heels to Deals.
Oh my gosh, Pamela, again?
So we were told last time that we should maybe consider not having 2 winners of one. What do you think, Jesse? Should we do it again? Should we give a chance to somebody else?
I don't know. Why don't we let our guests decide? What should we do, guys?
Yeah, what should we do? Do you think that we should give it to somebody else? Just go ahead and comment. Say yes if you think we should be able to give it to someone else. Because we had a little bit of a debate with a couple of people last week where some people even messaged me and said, it'd be cool if we can give a prize to others instead of giving it 2 to 1 person.
I would say that have to be established at the outset, like going forward. Like if someone gets picked twice, then the second time it's given to someone else. But if you haven't established that rule at the outset, I'd give it to Pamela. Pamela, this is a lucky chance thing. Yeah, hey, everyone, people would love to.
Let them complain. They just lost. That's why they're bitter about it.
You know what? Son says yes. A couple of people say yes. You know what?
Pamela is our lucky winner.
Congratulations, Pamela. We're super happy for you. So what I will do for the Heels to Deals, I will connect you with Heidi. Heidi is going to be able to send you a signed copy of the book. And yeah, again, congratulations. So as we get into that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. There we go. Stop sharing. So now the gift that many of you have bothered me about and also really want, let's give away the SAS Bros sweater. Let me just go ahead and show that here. This is the limited edition SAS Bros sweater. So what I'd like for everybody to do is, if you can, in the comments, obviously, go ahead and press hashtag SaaS Bros. So that's hashtag SAASBROS. Hashtag SaaS Bros. I think I'm pretty sure right now Jesse's creating the banner for me. And I'm going to make sure that I have it plugged in here. Done. So if you would like the sweater that you see on I always screw this up, on this supposed left, go ahead and just press in hashtag SaaS Bros and let's give this away. Let's have some fun. So let's jump into the last topic. Jesse, you want to kick us off?
Let's do it. Number 4. Why and how companies should adopt marketing-led growth, as if we haven't really established this yet, why we should get into marketing-led growth. You know, one stat I was going to mention, I guess it's just a point. I found before the show that in 2017, Forrester actually predicted the death of the B2B salesperson, boldly asserting that 1 million B2B sales reps would be displaced by 2020. So this was, again, back in 2017. It was Forrester predicting it. And they argued that modern B2B buyers would prefer self-service and digital research, therefore eliminating the need for sales reps, especially those who fail to add value to the buying experience. So
and it's not, and there's, if you look at Forrester, Miller Hyman, Gartner, and all the surveys they've done across thousands of tech buyers, you're seeing that reflected, where buyers, again, they want marketing and little to zero sales. And everyone can say that in their own personal lives as they deal with, if you go to a food fair, right, and you have all these different food stalls, do you want the person coming up to you be like, hey, buy my food? Or do you just want to like scout, see the prices, see they give you some free samples and see what the food looks like, and so you can all relate to that in your own personal buying habits. And so the fact is that kind of sales was sort of a necessary more so back in the day when marketing didn't have the ability and that we didn't have the tools and know-how that we have today. So buyers, you needed a human to communicate that information. Now it's all online. So you need that human to buy way less. And so, yes, there's a lot of salespeople, like if marketing-led growth is implemented and adopted across many companies, they're just going to get better jobs in marketing and operations or in sales or in other things, or start their own businesses or do whatever. So you upskill and you pivot and you do something different. Sales has got a lot of problems and sales isn't doing well today. So it's probably a great thing for and there's a lot of sellers that, are again, marketers entrapped in sellers' bodies. And so they just happen to be in sales. Like I wanted to try sales out and I was like, well, this sucks. I'm going back to marketing. And so, but I would say, so if you're a sales-led company now, and companies are a mixture really of sales-led growth and marketing-led growth, they adopt aspects of what I'm proposing, and they have aspects of the sales-led growth from 1980s. I recommend various experiments in the book on 4 key aspects of marketing-led growth. 1 is basically like marketing versus sales. 2 is marketing versus sales development. 3 is basically customer success versus like the sales assembly line, the AE, the CSM account manager, whatever. And then 4 is sales compensation of full salary plus bonus versus commission. So I have experiments for each of those aspects where you can analyze business case, experiment, prove, and gradual transition approach at your own company. And so you can prove this out with quantitative and qualitative data at your own company. Plus, I've got case studies and examples in the book, and more I'm finding about every single day, because the intimacies of companies marketing sales isn't public knowledge. And so I'm hearing things from different people and getting information where I can on my own time and dime. But but more of the stuff is coming to light, and it's coming to light in the marketing-led growth community. So this is a movement, a positive movement to help people have more productive and fulfilling careers across marketing, sales, and operations, whatever, help companies grow better. So the book is like, if everyone here knows predictable revenue model, that helped to preserve, unfortunately, sales-led growth in the 1980s. That was a book by Aaron Ross, published in 2011, based on his time as a sales leader in the early 2000s. And lucky for him, he was working at Salesforce. But he was basically preserving sales development and the sales assembly line, which is very unfortunate for B2B. But people needed a model or some playbook. You need a model, some playbook. And so that was what B2B has sort of been running on. And he preserved that from the 1980s. But you need something new. So I would say you've got a book, you've got the experiments, you've got case studies. It's just like a SaaS product, right? The old way sucks, new way's better. Here's case studies, here's examples, here's the implementation playbook, here's like, how you can use the product, here's some use cases for it, whatever. And you have your early adopters, and then you have your early majority, and then you have your late majority, et cetera. And then you have some companies who will not change until it's way too late, and for them, it'll be very hard to come back. All the damage has been done. And so any company that's in a market right now and you've got competitors that are marketing-led growth, but you're still sales-led growth, watch out. If you're trying to compete with Jesse, and Jesse's company is largely marketing-led growth, but you want to have all the problems of sales-led growth in the 1980s, like, good luck. You're going to have a really tough time attracting buyers, financing, and talent. And so, I would say,
that was the first industry I went to, the one that had the heaviest sales-led growth, actually, believe it or not. I mean, like, I saw the ABM market and the, I worked with them, and I just thought it was a terrible market to work with on the marketing side, because you had to buy, nobody could explain the platforms. I didn't, and like, that's really where I went immediately.
Right on. And just to maybe concretize an example of these experiments for people. So I mentioned briefly before marketing versus sales development. Of the 4 symptoms of sales-led growth, I see sales development as the biggest one, the biggest problem, and that should be prioritized and the first one to solve. You solve that, the other problems will fall in like a domino effect. So I would say, whether you're a marketer or a sales leader, you can run this experiment. I think, unfortunately, sales is, and will continue to fight a rearguard action against marketing-led growth and try to preserve sales-led growth. So my audience is marketing mostly, unfortunately, although there are sales leaders who are down with what I'm saying, but they're just kind of more reluctant and more resistant, and they're not. I don't think they'll have to probably let go of some of the best practices or just whatever. So my shtick is like, particularly if you're a marketing leader, because you're driving most of the growth and profits at a company, I think you're going to have the most success running this experiment, marketing versus sales development. And again, sales development reports to marketing 50% of the time, but you compare the leads generated from marketing versus sales development. You compare the budget and investment versus marketing versus sales development. You compare how much marketing is forced to support sales development. You also interview your buyers to ask the questions I ask my podcast: how you become aware of vendors, how do you not like to become aware of vendors, how do you become aware of us, blah, 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 and do your attribution also properly, so marketing is getting credit. And oftentimes what will happen is if you don't do attribution properly, sales development will hide behind marketing and ride off of marketing's coattails. And so if you do your attribution properly, both in your CRM, but also the how did you hear about us in your website form, and also you interview your buyers, you'll have triangulate how your buyers are actually becoming aware of you, what marketing activities are actually working and influencing them positively, and by how much versus not working. And that will give
For
you
all
this.
of you at SaaStr, it's not through trade shows. Just going to throw that out there.
So that'll give you that business case. You'll have the data to make a business case after qualitative and quantitative data to go to ownership and say, hey, let's automate website demo requests and qualification. Let's gradually reduce their spam activities, give them commission and quota relief accordingly, repurpose them to marketing. Everyone's a happy camper. And then you gradually sunset sales development. You repurpose them into marketing. And again, that's just way easier if it's the marketer doing this and sales development reports into marketing. Marketing can get sales to buy in to this. And sales can say no. And then marketing can basically say, well, if we go to ownership and we propose this and ownership agrees, will you disagree and commit? I don't know if anyone's here is familiar with the principle of disagree and commit. And then if sales says no, even if ownership wants to proceed with this experiment, because of your business case, because of your analysis, we won't be down with it. Then guess what's going to happen to that sales leader? They're probably going to get canned because they're not a team player. Or that marketing leader is going to go find a better job and get better ROI on their return for their efforts. And so I think marketing talent will go to try to find marketing-led growth companies. Many marketing talent is already doing that, or they're going to freelance or agency and consulting. And so, yeah, companies who are more amenable to that and sales leaders who are more amenable to that will have, I think, more profitable and fulfilling careers. So that was a really long rant. Sorry about that.
Okay, I just want to give away the sweater and then get into Guru of the Week. But does anybody else have anything to say?
I thought all of that was awesome, Nelson. And
Please.
I know we've got a large sales following in our audience, but I agree with Nelson. And I think it would behoove a lot of us to open our minds a little bit to start thinking this way as well, because the market is going to continue to change.
I'm not gonna lie. As a seller, I was a little bit biased. I'm still extremely biased. Don't get me wrong. But like, fuck, man, Nelson, you're like literally swaying me more and more into what like me and Jesse are talking about all the time.
I'll just say I was in sales for 4 years, and it
Yeah.
took me a long time of unlearning and researching and thinking and discussing and putting on a marketing hat. Who's that sales leader at Aircall? The good-looking guy that became very popular on LinkedIn and went to do, he was a sales leader. Anyone know who he is? Colin Cadmus. Colin Cadmus went and did his own consulting business, and as part of that, started to do marketing for his consulting business. Once he realized what marketing is, he really shifted his tune and became very rah-rah pro marketing, because he just he did a lot of marketing to build up his own personal reputation on LinkedIn. And so if you think about
Justin
all
Welsh.
those, you think about Justin Welsh, Sam
Yeah.
Jacobs, if you think about Jesse Lezak, if you think about Jesse Ouellette, and you think about yourself, Eddie, it's you're doing marketing. So when the people talk about social selling, it's code word for social media marketing. And so if you think about all these sales development peddlers who peddle sales development services and technology or whatever, they're doing extensive marketing to promote sales development. And so it's just ironic and logical, but it's the marketing. You just have to separate what it is that sales development is doing, what is that marketing is doing.
Since working with Eddie, I feel like social media marketing and social selling are different, because what Eddie does is so completely different than what I've ever done in marketing on LinkedIn. Like, and what Eddie, I kind of start to define social selling as is what you're doing in the comments. Like, he just, like, we've got our target list of all these people we either want to have on the show or we want to ask to sponsor. And he starts building relationships with them in their posts. It's like comment after comment, and just like, lends its way for me to get in there and start like talking to, and like he'll start talking to the comments, and it's like, this is perfect. I'm going to go to the DMs. And then Eddie will be upset because he's been working them on the comments, and then I go in for the DM.
I got
Eddie, I just had to say that because I feel like, Eddie, you've taught me like this new definition of social selling compared to what I thought of as like social media marketing.
And look, social media. Oh no, sorry. I was just saying, like, it's the same vice versa. I mean, I thank Jessie because she showed me a lot of the stuff that I didn't know into this marketing motion. And for me, I'm just a sales guy that was starting out with graphics, and then looking at some of the workflows that are in the world today and seeing how I can adapt that into my own business when I was doing more of EB3 stuff. But what I'm also realizing now is when I speak to Jessie, I have the opportunity to take some of what she's already doing and adapting it into social selling, like she was saying. I mean, if you don't know this trick, Jessie's pretty much giving you like my secret at this point. Like, the sauce is pretty simple. I literally just go in and I know who I'm going after. I know who our ICP is. I get who the persona is. It's pretty simple, right? You see these two gentlemen on our show. That's what we're going after, sales and marketing. And we want people that can influence change, but at the same time can talk about its alignment.
And have a strong point of view too.
Yeah, have strong points of view. So that's why I go out there and I go into the comments, because that's the first place that they go anyways. Like, myself and a lot of people I know will respond faster in comments than they do in their DMs. So if you see me in your comments, you're going to respond. And then I'll catch you in the DMs by asking you to get there in the comments.
Eddie, who's your target audience?
So for now, really, it's just people like yourselves, leaders in the market who are in sales and marketing.
Yeah, so this is a good example of social media marketing. So your audience is on LinkedIn, and you're commenting, posting, connecting, following. You're inviting people to LinkedIn Lives. You're maybe doing podcasting, guest podcasting, or have your own podcast. You're inviting, so it's non-sales situation. Or there might be a case where someone is saying, "Hey, I would like Eddie's services on LinkedIn." Like, "Hey, I have this problem. Does someone know the services?" And happens to be that Eddie has that service. Then it's appropriate because it's a public platform where Eddie can be like, "I actually have that service," and you raised the bat signal because you're looking for my service to say, you can DM me. That's appropriate. Or maybe Eddie wants to bring me on to a conference as a speaker. Non-sales situation. That's appropriate. Those are all great examples of social media marketing, and what a lot of SDRs who are now trapped in the SDR role can do if you turn them into marketing, allow them to do social media marketing or content marketing or events and whatnot to help get guests for a podcast or help get people to speak at events or to be doing LinkedIn Lives or to be commenting, engaging in thoughtful conversation, as opposed to LinkedIn spam, which is, "Hey, Eddie, would you like to speak to sales, or would you like to buy my product, or would you like, here's this whole 15 page product pitch." That's the LinkedIn spam that people don't want, the connect and pitch. So that's the difference of people, just to clarify the difference between social selling and social media marketing. Last thing I'll say is the reason why they call it social selling is because there's a lot of salespeople today who have to do or forced to do marketing's job. And so there are sales trainers and consultants who will peddle social media marketing to sales and sales development, but you can't call it social media marketing. Just like you couldn't call it spam, you had to call it prospecting. And so you need to call it something else. You call it social selling. You can't, because what are you going to say to a salesperson? Hey, you can do social media marketing. They'd be like, social media marketing, isn't that marketing's job? It's like, yeah, we want you to do marketing's job. You want me to do marketing's job? So you get into like this is why you have these different terms, because you got to package it up so that people drink the Kool-Aid. Sorry. I know, Eddie, you want to jump in with a promotion. I've been cutting you off.
No. I mean, just to finalize what I was saying, like the thing that I want to get across is, even when we're doing social selling, like between myself and Jesse, and look, like Jesse will see what I'm writing, because we're quite tactical. And if any of you want to try to do this, go ahead. We're very tactical in the sense that I include Jesse in the conversation of the comments, because it's a support system between each other. So when I go in and I comment something, it's not about trying to sell you on the idea of coming on. I'm trying to sell you on this idea of the event by telling you about the event and how great it is, and then including our page and including Jesse. And then Jesse comes on supporting that. Like, we really do think you're going to love being on here, because this is your audience. Like, it's not a system of persuasion where we're trying to sell you on something. We're just giving you an idea, and we think that this idea is powerful enough for you to try to encompass in and to try to delve into. And that's why I think it's so successful as an overarching strategy. So
it's a great community here. I mean, you have people who are, you guys are East Coast, I'm West Coast. So it's like 10:30 by you, right? And so you got people who on a work night are joining this community of like-minded peers to learn, discuss, share thoughts. I'm looking at the chat, so I'm trying to learn at the same time what people are saying to get feedback on things that have been talked about here. You've bringing in their sponsors or people who are helpful to make this happen, but also can provide value to the community. They're handpicked in the giveaways. This is a really awesome example of proper marketing. I have to say, it's my first time on Whiskey Wednesday. And so I think that, this is a good example, guys, of what we want, or what I want more of, what we want more of, what buyers want more of. And so we should be moving this direction now. So kudos to you guys. Yeah, let's do it.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. We always go back to kind of like our little origin story, but I think we kind of touched on it a second ago. But the idea was this, really just bringing and bridging the gap between sales and marketing, and trying to make people understand that there's value in us speaking, me being in sales and Jesse being in marketing. It's that simple. And look at the impact that can do.
You always have to build a product first. You can first build an audience. And that's what we did, is we built an audience, and we tried to figure out who that audience is and how we can add value to them. And it leads into a product.
All right. Let's give away the sweater, and let's make sure that the people are not just waiting for the sweater. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug that in. I know everybody can see it. So let's see who the lucky winners are.
Oh,
the lucky winner. Lucky winner. Oh, Rachel. Congratulations, Rachel.
Looks like I'm wearing the Sass Bros sweatshirt.
Well, actually, I had a picture earlier from somebody named Aaron that won the Sass Bro shirt. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And I was going to share my screen, but I closed the tab by accident. So, Rachel, congratulations. What I'm going to do is connect you with Darren and Eric into a DM, and they're going to be able to send you your size specifically. Congratulations again. So now let's get into the Guru of the Week. Why don't we do that little banner?
The Guru.
So,
Guru of the Week.
we have a
Drum roll.
competition between the two gents about who the Guru of the Week is this week. And a lot of you know who this individual is, but I'm going to allow our guests, of course, to name this person. So both of you go ahead whenever you like.
Chris Walker.
Yeah.
And I have to give Chris I dedicate, or in my acknowledgments in the book, Chris is number one for like influence. So I give credit where credit is due. Chris helped me sort of realize a lot of the things that I've helped to realize. And actually, so, he was doing this like in 2017, talking about this stuff and doing this in 2017, 2018. So he was way ahead of the curve. And not only that, he then, he's a marketing leader for those of you guys who don't know, and he has got a marketing agency. It's one of the best in B2B. And he's really leading the way at the forefront of B2B marketing and modernizing B2B marketing and helping B2B marketers to level up. He's incredible. And his content is great. His podcast is great. It has a similar podcast. We brought a community together just like this. And I was part of that. It's awesome. But anyway, he went and started a marketing company to show people how his vision of marketing and he thought marketers can and should do. And now he's got, from one person, it's now like 100-person company, and he's got tons of clients, and it's great. So I think what he's done for the B2B community is just amazing. He's really helped, and he had a market of zero. He created a brand new market for his ideas and his way of doing marketing, and helped to change a lot of people's minds. And so, including my own. So yeah, big kudos to Chris. I highly encourage you to go check him out and learn.
I'm a big fan of Chris Walker. I watch whenever I see his little videos pop up on LinkedIn, or somebody reposts it, or somebody comments on it. I immediately go watch it. I also follow him. And the whole thing stemmed from, like we were saying earlier, the custom field of where did you find us? And Jesse is actually the one who told me about that. So I went in and I'm just like, what is it? What is all this fuss about? Then I go in and I'm saying, wow, look at the value behind this one box. This one little box, how much impact it drives. And then from there on, I just kept listening and listening and listening and listening. And then you look at these reinforcing points that are coming from you, Nelson. And look, I'll tell you, even Jesse Ouellette, when we jam with him and we speak, he's also kind of in that mode where he's heavy on sales, but heavy on marketing. Because you look at what he's doing with Lead Magic, I don't see any salespeople hounding anybody in Lead Magic, yet Lead Magic is successful because it's building a brand, and it's doing so in public with him speaking about some of the stuff that are currently going on right now, and the volatility of email and being in spam. And then funny enough, what's one of the things that you look for when you're trying to find who to go to instead of spamming them? First party data is wonderful. I'm not trying to look, you're one of our sponsors. I'm just going to flat out say it. With Lead Magic, it's something along the lines of somebody visits your site. You're capable of seeing that first party data. So when you see who's actually looking for you, it's easier to go to them instead of just spamming people who are not looking for you, right? Like, that's a model on its own. So having people like Chris Walker and Jesse Ouellette and you and other people that are sellers and marketer minded, or marketers who have some form of sales mind, those are all things that I want to know more about, because it allows us to build in public when it comes to Reveting and to whiskey. So thank you to that.
And I'll say there's a lot of sellers who tuned into Chris and became marketers because of that. And when I was a seller in B2B for a while, and I was trying to understand, like, what's the deal with B2B marketing, I went to Chris and I learned tons. So if you're a seller and you're kind of like, hey, what's going on in the B2B marketing world? And you kind of are curious about B2B marketing, you think maybe that might be interesting for you. And you maybe see the writing on the wall, like, and sales, you're not happy in sales, but you want to check out marketing. Chris is a great person to learn from, to see what's going on in the B2B marketing world, and get excited about all the cool things that are happening there. So.
Absolutely. Jesse, you want to say something before we get into the after party?
I think Jesse Ouellette. Did you say anything about?
You were talking about me?
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse O.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think what it really boils down to is, if you're sitting there and you're probably, there's a little bit of you that's like, I'm in sales, what am I going to do? Or I'm in marketing. I think what you're starting to see is there's really becoming not much of a difference, right? The roles are becoming very similar. So you have to look at the organization. You have to start looking at what's the job you're going to be doing, right? And, if you're like, as a seller, I was my hands were tied. I could not build. I had a CEO. He told me, do not post on LinkedIn. Do not make posts. So, and he did not want them unless he would call my boss and he would say, meanwhile, he's torching his Twitter account every single day. So you can go read that stuff. But either way, like, when I look at that, and I can't see that you're going to start to see a real rebellion against that. And I think what you're going to find is organizations that start to look at it as one. Don't worry about it. You're not going to lose your job if you're in sales. You're just going to have to evolve, and you're going to have to build a career based on that. Now, depending on where you are in your career is going to really matter, right? And, some of the sellers that I have are like, I would hire salespeople that I work with to do marketing over a lot of marketing people that I've worked with. Right. And that's like one of the key points is that, if you're a seller and you're like, man, I don't really know. Well, if you're on this show, or if you're like talking in the comments right now, like, don't sweat it. You're way ahead of most. 99% of the people aren't here. Right. Like, way more than that. But like, you got to just think of it that way, that like, don't put yourself into a box. Bridges with a point of failure usually fail. Try to do both. Try to learn marketing, and then if you're a marketer, learn sales, learn conversion, learn how to do copywriting, which is a lot of the times more of a sales job, right? So, this is some of the things that I think about, and but I think they're becoming more and more the same. And that's where, just depending on where you are, Chris Walker might be more of a seller, right? I mean, you never know, right? Like, I'm just kind of throwing that out there, right? There's some inadequacies there. So that's all I'm saying. I think Nelson brings up some great points, keeps conversation going the right way, because there is a huge problem with sales development organizations right now. I mean, the turnover is disastrous, and we need to start providing some areas for some of these folks to get some better skills in certain areas, right? Whether it's technology and operations, whether it's enablement, whether it's, okay, just put them in the sales role now. Stop making them like you're leaving your players you're playing with a short team. Like, you put them in the field, right? Like, what's going on? Like, that's another thing that I never get. Like, I've seen orgs, they have 50 sellers and they have 50 SDRs. And it's like, well, why can't you put half of them in the field with a quota? And
Good point.
see what happens, right? That's kind of the way it's got to be. And, I think there's a blend now that it's happening.
Yeah, if you're a seller.
For anybody who would like to join us for the after party so they can be on with us and our guests, of course, we already have, well, look at that. So we already have people coming on. Look at the link that's in the comments right now. Go ahead and jump on. Press that link. Enter the studio. Come in. Let's jam together. If we do exceed 10 people, then we'll have to jump into a Google Meet instead with Whiskey Wednesday as the email address, of course. But yeah, go ahead and jump in for the after party. Looks like we got Topher and Emily with us. Emily doesn't have her camera on. I know she's going to.
And I muted both of you because one of you had feedback. So just make sure that your LinkedIn is muted if you.
Yeah. So if you don't know how to do this for both of you, you just got to go to the tab on top, right click, press mute tab. That way we don't hear any echo.
Topher, what'd you think of the show?
So wait, Jesse, one last thing. If you have the opportunity, please do join our community. I'd like to put that up here. Join our community, one that we have just commenced actually a week or two ago. It is at reveting.com/Slack. Again, that is reveting.com/Slack. As so far, great amount of people when it comes to sales and marketing. We want to keep it growing. We want to keep this thing going, and we're not going to stop the momentum. So looks like we got 3 people with us now. Go join in the link in the comments, and let's have some fun. All right.
It was great talking to everybody. I do have to go, but it was really good. Nelson, great catching up with you again. Jesse, Eddie, love the show. Big fan, obviously, and looking forward to.
Jesse, thank you so much for being here.
Jesse.
Yep.
Ciao.
See ya. Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Let's get some opinions going.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the show?
I'm spam.
You're spam.
That's killer. I'm
Tom.
I gotta mute Tom. I think he's at Saster.
I'm pretty sure he is at Saster. He just doesn't know that he's actually muted right now. Nod your head if you know you're muted.
So you're spam.
Hey!
He unmuted himself.
Oh, word, it is Saster.
That's awesome. If you want to jump on again, go get the link.
That's awesome. You guys are cooler than Saster. Tom is tuning in. Is like, this is the real party.
We're super thankful for
Saster.
We're super thankful for everybody that we have that comes in all the time. And you know what? Like, we have 542 comments. I know a lot of them are obviously because of the hashtags, but take those out. We still got about 250, 300 comments in there. We have a party every single week in the comments, and we love you for that. We're not saying it to be cheesy, but for those who are still here, we absolutely love you for that. We are trying to make the party bigger every week in the comments so that not only is it just for the show, but for you to connect with each other. We said that last time. We're going to say it again. I'll say it again. You being able to not only leverage the knowledge that you have from the people that are coming on, you can also leverage the knowledge from the people in the comments and network with them and take advantage of them because they're already there, right? And hop into the after party. Connect with us, connect with the people that are here, and see what you can make out of it. So, again, what do we think? Let's have some fun.
This is always my favorite part. I love hearing your guys' I want to hear the counter arguments because I know we threw out a lot of marketing stuff tonight, and a lot of y'all are salespeople. So, are you feeling salty? Let's talk about it.
Just a little bit. So, in your example of we'll call it the food truck marketing utopia you laid out. The people handing out the samples are the salespeople. They're out there building the relationship. They're out there showcasing what the product can do. in your example, you showed what sales should be doing and working in conjunction with the cooks and the driver and everybody else that's part of that process of running this food truck.
Yeah, and I know. I think that the example isn't 100% accurate of what I was trying to convey, but I think you kind of got the gist of it. But imagine you're walking down Times Square or like to work and you're on the subway, and someone then comes up to you and like says, "Hey, you want this cheeseburger?" And you're not at a food market, right? Where people are that's sort of, it doesn't feel like you're when you go to a food market and people have got their samples to you, but they're not like rudely coming up to you and just like, hey, maybe you got someone who's coming around, they're just like, yeah, you want something or whatever, they're like on a platter, like you're at a wedding, right? And they come around with a platter and you can be like, oh, I'll take one, right? But it's not like you're pushing your wares in front of someone. And so
that's exactly what you're doing, though, because it's not that you're just handing there like a waiter. You're the front of the line trying to get people to come and buy from your food truck and not Jimmy John's down the street or the Philly cheesesteak hot top, whatever. Like, you want them to see what you have.
Yeah, and
you want them to see the benefits of what you have.
Yeah, so I would say that to use this analogy again, like you're marketing your product, and you're not like rudely going up to someone like in a spam context, and not at a food fair, but like they're just walking down the street and you're like, yeah, here's that feeling where like a beggar comes up to you or something like that in like the middle of the street. But if you're at a food fair and someone's like giving away free samples or something like that, it's just an analogize to say like, look, man, I've been in the SDR role. Like I've done the telemarketing, I've done the email spam, the LinkedIn spam, the direct mail. I've offered like free lunches, and I didn't enjoy it. And I also realized what's possible in marketing. So if you are someone who enjoys sales development and you like that type of work, because there aren't many people, then it's cool, man. Like stick with it. Again, it's no disrespect to anyone who's an SDR. I think it's good talent in a bad role.
I mean, it's not disrespect, though. I mean, you said everything that we're doing. I mean, you purposely spun it in a way that was condescending towards what I'm doing, what a lot of people on this channel and a lot of people on this platform do. And you said, I mean, at some points you called it garbage. At some points, I mean, yeah, I get it. It's a lot of fanfare, and any controversy will help drive up awareness. And so in that respect, that's, I guess, a ploy of marketing. But for the rest of us, I mean, you're trying to attempt to say that our jobs are useless, that we don't have value added to the company.
So I know it could be tough to hear, and I'm someone I'm not pulling any punches.
I'm not.
And I know you're fine. Like you're a tough guy. I wish I heard that when I was before I ever went into sales development, and when I was in sales development. And so, I think while that can hurt to hear, and it's sort of like it can be tough if if someone is saying, hey, what you're doing is, it's spam, and relative to marketing, it's unnecessary and does more harm than good. But what I'm saying is let's take that good talent. Let's give them a more fulfilling and productive role and help them transition to marketing, sales, or operation, which many are already trying to do as soon as possible. They're trying to escape from sales development and there's massive low job satisfaction in sales development. And so if you're someone who you feel like you're in a role where you're not actualizing your potential and you're not fulfilled, and this is not the type of meaningful work that you want to do, then seek another job elsewhere. If you are happy, cool, stick with it. And if there's someone who's bashing what you're doing, but you believe in it and you're like, I don't buy what he's saying, and I don't want to. I wouldn't want to be in another role. I wouldn't want to be in marketing or sales or operations. Like sales development is for me. Then like, cool, man. Like that's I get you. So, but sometimes you gotta. I think to convey what it is that I'm trying to convey. Yes, it is controversial, but it's like this is the stuff that people, because they've sugarcoated it and often they've hide it behind euphemisms. A lot of people aren't realizing the truth. It's clouding understanding. It's clouding the truth and getting people to talk. I might not have the solution. I might not even have an accurate assessment of the problem. But I think unless we talk clearly and we just speak plainly with one another, even if it's hurtful, we won't get to the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a big advocate of sales. Everybody knows that. So I'm only going to touch on two things. because I do have a rebuttal, but at the same time, I have call it an inclination, as we said earlier. My rebuttal will always be that I love to sell. I like the idea. It's because it's not. I'm not trying to sell. I'm helping, and I post about this all the time. My sales tactics and strategies, it all revolves around trying to find a true solution to a problem, which is why I'd rather help somebody than try to sell them. And I'll never get away from that mindset. But there is something, this inclination, that ever since we started this, it seems as though seeing the reciprocation of the marketing efforts that me and Jesse put in are slowly driving me closer and closer towards it. Because in my mind, and I'm going to say this flat out, I was programmed my entire life, from beginning of my sales career into mentorship, into coaching, and all the things in leadership, and any VP that I've ever spoken to, that the only way to drive business is by going out there and get it. Even things like when Tom says, closed mouths don't get fed, right? Like those sayings, like if you don't go out there, you can't provide, you cannot produce. And then you look at what we're doing, like what Nelson was saying, and even Jesse was saying, there is a way for us not even to have to pick up a phone or send an email and build something and have people come to us and say, hey, what did you say your service was? Oh, we can help you out on LinkedIn, and we could do this. We can also help with social selling. And guess what? We can also help with strategy when it comes to sales and marketing. They're like, oh, that's cool. We'd like to work with you. And I never even had to pick up a phone doing this. And although somebody said in the comments, yes, it does depend on the industry. I got to say yes, 100%. It does depend on the industry. Because it's not like this could work for...
And you have advantages. You have so many advantages that none of the speakers today have talked about. Oh my God. Like,
What's that?
You can't... You guys already came in from a place where you had a network and you had a brand and you had all these things going in there. I feel like it's very easy for all of you who are doing well for yourselves to say like, oh, well, we do this thing now, so it's the only ethical way and everybody else is spamming people. Nelson, you talk about how people are just using buzzwords to cover things up. And you 75% of what you said in this interview was the word spam. And it seems like you classify spam as anything you're not doing, and all the stuff you're doing, all the stuff you're doing is not spam, and everything else is spam. And I think you guys are oversimplifying it. And I think when you built yourself up to a certain point in your career, yes, the business just starts flowing in, but sometimes you do have to go introduce yourself to people. And I think there's always an element of coercion in marketing and sales. And oftentimes what we do is we just transform it into something else. Oh, people say they don't like salespeople. Well, why don't we track them privately the next time they buy a personal item? And we can start mentally getting into their space. But that is coercion, my friends, and I am just as guilty of it as you are. But I think everybody has been too kind to themselves in this interview as declaring themselves definitely not spam, and everybody else is spam.
Oh God, no, I spam, and I'm a salesperson.
There's been countless new uses of spam in this program, including Nelson's use of the word spam. Nelson, you are making good points, but you know that negativity is going to boost you in the algorithm, so you are negative all the time. And I do not like negativity. I am not a person who likes to watch people fight and complain and call each other out, but I always see you in my newsfeed because you figured out how to get past that wall. You figured out a way to get my attention, even though I wouldn't otherwise give it to you. And I don't sit here and call you you're doing your thing just like I am. You're trying to sell books, but I resent the way you're so cavalier about calling everybody spam with no self-reflection at all about any of your own marketing practices.
Yeah, sure. And just to maybe help clarify what I mean by spam and how I distinguish it from non-spam. So
I listened. I heard.
So, but it's important to distinguish that, because what we're doing right now, or what Jesse and Eddie is doing, obviously is not spam.
I just argued that it is, though. I just argued that lots of elements of this program are spam by your definition.
Well, my definition is unconsented marketing solicitation to a buyer's private inbox with a product pitch or request to speak to sales, and that comes across in telemarketing.
You narrowly come up with it in a way to exclude yourself, and then you overlook all these other ways that numerous points of the things you do and this program Like, there are points where you guys are giving away extra things, and some people don't want that, but like, that's what you guys need to do to produce the shows, you know? And like, that you got to get the money from somewhere, you got to get the sponsors from somewhere, and just the moral, you know, judgment you pass on people while, you know, doing just, in my opinion, more sophisticated forms of the same thing. You know, it's like, I was a sales rep, I had to go out there and charm people and get on their radar for certain ways and then make the sell. And it's like, we are just doing a more sophisticated version of that. But you know, the marketing tactics that companies use, I would argue, are actually much more insidious. They're tracking your data in all these ways that people don't think to oppose to, because they're not as blatant as somebody calling you, but that doesn't mean they're ethical.
Yeah, so I think there's a distinction between ads or sponsorships or promotion or giveaways on this type of private platform, which makes it possible for all of this to come together. And it's fun and it's done in a cool way. And these are, you know, the sponsors and ads. And that is very different from then trying to spam someone in the private inbox, and how you as a buyer would feel when someone sends you spam in the mail, or they get a spam telemarketing call, you get a spam email. That's very different.
I hate when Bank of America sends me commercials. I don't like that as a buyer either, you know, but like, that's okay because they paid for it, because they're a wealthy company. And honestly, what you guys are practicing is a form of classism, where if you are rich enough to have good marketing and you are established enough to be connected to top players in an elite space, you can just turn on the, you know, demand gen machine and go. But if you're somebody who's actually needs to like you're impoverished, you're going to go out there and start selling something. And sometimes that means going up and striking up a conversation with somebody, even though that's not what they planned on doing. And, you know, I think there's a reason why people in the comments keep pointing out other industries. And I think the elite tech B2B SaaS world is quite privileged and quite blinded on this issue, specifically in this topic tonight.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but actually it's B2B that's, at least compared to B2C, that's quite behind the times. There are other industries that are probably more, I would say, behind B2B. But to your point about like, there are people, when you see rich people, right, or successful people, you see the tip of the iceberg, right? You don't see all the work that goes behind it. All that work that went behind it in let's say, in personal branding or personal marketing of what Jesse's done, and what both Jesse's, in fact, Jesse is a startup company. He bootstrapped it, and he's doing a lot of proper marketing for it. And that's helped him to be successful. And he's at a marketing-led growth model. Jesse and Eddie, who put this together, they're on LinkedIn and they're doing content and social media marketing, events and community. They're doing all sorts of podcasting. Jesse was on my podcast. So what they're doing is they've started with little. I've started with very little. I'm like a, you know, bootstrap founder, you know, building out this community, the website, the book, the audio, the podcast, and it's taken, but it's like investing. It's got compounding yield, right? So you don't have to.
Ghostwriters are a good investment. Ghostwriters. We all know people on LinkedIn who use ghostwriters. Maybe some of us are ghostwriters here. That is a much more sophisticated version of deception, right? Because we go to LinkedIn to see people's actual opinions. We did not consent to that ad writers, or, you know, that person who's trying to boost their engagement. We did not consent to that. We do not even know that's happening. The average person doesn't even know that's happening. You are just able to do things that are much more hidden from all the ways that you're actually coercing people and influencing people. Whereas cold calling is much more direct, which is why it's kind of unpleasant. But I would actually argue in many cases it is more ethical than what we're doing here, even though what we're doing is a lot more fun.
So I do want to touch on something for that, though. And I want to say, and I'm not going to fight Chris on what he's saying, what I will fight on is, you're right on one thing, Chris, but then we have to look at the other side of the coin. The first one is, for what you see when it comes to sponsorships, yes, those have to be sold into as an idea so that they can come on here. But think about the other side of the coin, where nothing of our audience is actually being sold to. There's nothing on our behalf that we're doing. And yes, everything I've ever done on LinkedIn, or Jesse's done, or even you've done, Chris, or anyone here has ever done to build their following, was through building content. Content is a form of marketing for all of us. We've all gotten here to a personal so-called brand that we called through this form of marketing. I've never actually sold anybody anything through any of my content ever on LinkedIn. I sell behind the scenes because I'm a salesperson. That's my job. If we want to call it spam, so be it. But that's because it's
we all do it. We all just do it somewhere else, though. So it transfers to a different space.
That's all.
And I find oftentimes this is a question of how direct you're being. And again, people hate direct confrontation. They hate direct, they don't like being made to think in the space.
I love it.
But again, sometimes these things that aren't confrontational, they're much more. They're a picture of a cat. They're a meme. Those are much more loaded. Those are much more strategic. Those are somebody making a very small strategic move that's going to be more effective at taking your attention span, at taking your money, at get you to supporting things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have supported if you were left to your own devices. Like it's more sophisticated and it's less bothersome, which is why customers, when you poll them, will be like, oh yeah, just take all my Facebook data. Who cares? But that doesn't mean that we are all doing necessarily the right thing here. And I think we always need to keep. I'm just skeptical whenever we're like, oh, marketing's so ethical. Let's all pat ourselves on the back. It's like there's always some part of it where something, like there's always resistance for some reason.
In terms of the ethicality bit, because there's a business argument and there's the ethicality bit. So in terms of spamming people and the ethicality of spam, there's a couple. What I'm saying is, if you're going to take someone's private information, which they've not given to you, they haven't consented to it, and then you spam them, that's what we have spam laws. That's why you have to
If you could use more explicit words than you just say the word spam as a catch-all, and if you use more specific language to say like, oh, contacting a person without their permission, taking someone's information off a list, those are specific things that I can make moral judgments on. But when you say spam is bad, they're spamming, all I hear is like, Nelson's selling his book and everybody else is an idiot, and like you're just using buzzwords,
Yeah, so if you take someone's private contact information and then you send them, as I said, the definition, an unconsented marketing solicitation to their private inbox with a product pitch or request to speak to sales, that is why buyers hate spam, right?
I think you're missing the piece about it not being relevant or personalized to them, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what's wrong with what?
Yeah. So I've asked buyers about this, and so there's people will say, well, spam is okay if you apply 2 types of lipstick. One is the spam is actually relevant to them. And your buyers will say, actually, no, what I want is relevant marketing, not relevant spam. So even if it is relevant, it's still spam. It still turns them off.
Who
So
are
the
you to make that
marketing is
distinction?
spam too.
Wait,
So-
is it just spam because it didn't come from marketing? Because you just said that relevancy is important and that personalization is important, but it only isn't spam if it comes from marketing?
No, it can come from any. It can come from anywhere. It can come from marketing. It can come from sales development. I'm talking about like if you send someone something that is like a spam email or a telemarketing call, it could be as relevant. It could be like your audience. It could be the person has the problem. They're whatever, but they still do not appreciate spam, and that they will often tune out and turn off. And what you're hoping with your spam, again, is that you're going to get that small subset of buyers, that tiny part of your market, who will put up with it to buy the product. And maybe because they're already influenced by marketing's reputation or brand or peer have referred them, or they're already aware and interested in you, and they say like, okay, I'll go kick the tires. I'll take the meeting. Maybe I'll buy or whatever. So that's why prospecting, by the way, is like a term for gold. You're trying to hunt that little small bit and get.
I'm from Georgia. I know
them.
about prospecting.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's why when you say personalization, now personalization is another lipstick on spam. It is the process of making your spam personal to the recipient to reduce the likelihood that it is ignored and rejected. So you'll say, oh, hey, I noticed, you got kids too, or you're a chancellor of sales. I'm a chancellor of sales, whatever. You're going to, maybe you put a joke in, you got a funny subject line. You're trying to, do a bunch of research so that the person on their end knows that.
What about billboards? What about billboards, Nelson? What about billboards?
I saw that in the comments.
so-
What about billboards? Are billboards spam?
So what do you think?
I want to hear if you can say something that's not like a rehearsed talking point. I want to hear your opinion on billboards. I will tell you my answer as soon as you tell me yours.
Yeah, billboards, again, like ads.
Do you have any other expression, by the way?
Me?
Come on, guys. Let's be nice.
Nelson.
No. I like this is.
Matter of factly, he's stating facts.
I want to
He
hear your
doesn't even
thoughts.
smile.
I want to hear your thoughts, Nelson, on billboards. Is that
So no, ads are not spam. It's not your private inbox. It's not
I
your phone
disagree.
email. It's
Here-
a public space. You're in a
Here's why I
public or a
disagree.
private space.
Why are you allowed to
It's
take
a-
someone's attention without consent in a public space? The only reason why you put up that billboard is I have to be paying attention there because I'm driving. I did not consent to your advertisement. There is no way I can avoid your advertisement, but you were rich enough to buy a billboard, so congratulations. It passes the Nelson standard for whether or not it's ethical. I say it's not ethical. It stole my attention. I did not want to look at that. You were just clever enough to know that if you put a thing there in my face when I'm stuck in traffic, I got to look at your law firm, And I don't you can make the argument that that's ethical because you're not asking for access to someone's inbox because that's not your business model. But I'm saying you are letting off your hook and you are judging other people for doing the very same thing that you approve of in other more sophisticated forms that just coincidentally only are available to rich people.
Look, I have a definition of spam, and I offer examples of it and counterexample of what is not spam that I've offered on LinkedIn, in my book, and whatever. So I have got.
And I'm arguing it's self-serving. I'm arguing it's self-serving, Nelson.
And according to my definition, ads on a public or private platform are not spam. So, and I think most people, or buyers, and B2B buyers, let's say in particular, would agree with that because the type of spam that they're getting annoyed about, that they're complaining on LinkedIn, that they're tuning out and they're turning off, that are damaging companies' growth and profitability, that's harming marketing's efforts, that's why sales development is failing and suffering high turnover, low tenure, and low performance, is because of what sales development is doing. And the whole role is geared towards spamming and telemarketing.
It's because clumsy 21-year-olds are doing it instead of sophisticated
Why do you think
marketers.
they hire 21-year-olds? Because it's a spam role out of college and they're luring them in.
Yeah, but
and
it doesn't
forcing them
have
do
to
that.
be.
But
But
that doesn't mean
My first SDR
that
role.
doesn't absolve you from being spam, though, Nelson. Is the point I'm trying to say? Is you can point out these problems with quota. You can point out that people hate being called by some 21-year-old. But again, I would argue that some people come to LinkedIn because they want to learn about job opportunities. When they see Whiskey Wednesday pop up, they're like, look at these idiots stealing my attention. Damn them for stealing my precious attention, because every 5 seconds actually is powerful. And we're we know the rules. We're screw it. You guys consented to this. We could do whatever we want here. But again, this is why I'm just so cautious about using the word spam, because it's so easy to come up with your definition, which you've said throughout the program. But again, as I always point out, it's a definition that conveniently condemns everybody who's not you and lets you off the hook for whatever you want to support.
So why don't you do this? Why don't you come up with a new definition of spam and offer examples of what spam is and what spam is not?
Because you're making me do work for you, Nelson, and I'm not your employee.
So you don't like my definition of spam, but you don't want to offer a counter definition.
I do things on LinkedIn other than
accuse
accuse people of being spam. I teach them how to be fun and make whimsical videos and stuff. I don't sit around accusing people of being spam because my hands are guilty. I've got blood on my hands there too, right? I go out there and I try to get people to buy my stuff when realistically they should be supporting things that are more important than that, but I'm getting their attention. I'm fighting for their attention.
What do you sell?
The Chris Bogue method, my new course dropping this week, the complete method to selling on video.
Right. So you sell courses and you've got what, video, social media marketing? Is that what it is?
You should check me out sometime.
He's this. He's got
So cool. So yeah, you're on LinkedIn, Chris. I've seen your comments before, and your posts about, hey, you're saying telemarketing sucks. Maybe you should send funny videos in your social media marketing or something like that. So at least that's what my gist of what I've seen from you.
Right,
before.
but I don't condemn people as doing something immoral as spamming. I don't sit around and shake my finger and say, look at all these terrible people. Look at how they're violating everybody else's consent. I don't point the finger at everybody because, again, I think anytime you're selling something, anytime you're selling marketing something, there's always some form of coercion that we need to be mindful of, no matter how ethically we think we're doing it. We need to always ask ourselves, is this right? And that's my criticism of this conversation is just it's when you categorize everybody as everybody that's not you as spam, it's a lot easier to just point out everybody else's flaws and never look at yourself and say, hey, maybe some of my assumptions aren't as, completely morally authoritative as, I present them on LinkedIn.
Cool. So I appreciate your feedback on my approach. And one thing that I will say that I've learned from my approach is to have a more positive emphasis. And while I do criticize and tear down and be negative. I'm also presenting a positive and trying to present more of a positive, that this is a positive movement, a positive model, that there's a positive here of market, there's solutions and answers here.
And
a
I
way
love
to
you when you
transition
do it. When you do it.
giving
Some-
examples, but you have to
Sometimes
understand.
you do that.
you
I'm like,
you
oh,
have
that's
to
a good
understand.
point, Nelson. That's so spot on, you know?
Yeah, but you have to understand, not everyone is where you're at, where you've seen my content. I have to educate people throughout different parts of the funnel. And so what sometimes will like, I have to say, here's the problem, and then here's the solution. So you might know, okay, I get the problem, but I want more of the solution, but I'm trying to cover both sides of it. And you may be tired of hearing about the problem and you want to hear more and more of the solution. I'm trying to juggle both.
No,
and get
I'm saying
people
you
towards
opened
the-
a can of worms on the problem and you don't realize how big it is, and it actually condemns all of us. Like, you are so on the money with your criticisms of the sales model that you are guilty to, and so is everyone here at Whiskey Wednesday, even though this is an amazing time and I love it, and I'm going to come here every week because everyone's brilliant.
All y'all spammers need to just shut up and show up to
Yeah, I feel like when you step aside of this, again, I'm just not a person who likes to shame people, you know, but it's like I think what this, you know, podcast, what this live stream is trying to do is saying, okay, let's find a better way. Let's figure out a better way together. Okay, you know, like we can all just show up. We're going to get cross disciplines. We're going to get different voices. We're going to just like try to figure out how to do it right. You know, part of the reason why I'm able to make comedy, though, is because oftentimes I am satirizing myself, because I'll have one of these realizations be like, man, I'm pretty shitty too, you know, objectively, if I'm looking at all of this. And I think the more we're able to do that and kind of spot our own shortcomings and our own hypocrisies and our own blind spots, the easier it is to kind of like push for this new, more personal way and less away from this high pressure, we're going to fire 30% of our team every 3 months kind of mindset.
Yeah, there's definitely some. Look, I'll agree with a lot of what you talked about, Nelson, or what you talk about in terms of the complex, the SDR-AE complex, what everything, all the bonus inaccuracies and all that kind of crap that breeds, you know, especially in young people who have no yet established any discipline in business yet, that all of a sudden they're tasked with these things that they can't seem to accomplish. So they either churn out, or the good ones maybe get promoted. And that certainly has a very high turnover rate. I got into this business like 3.5 years ago, watching what Jake Dunlap talk about these issues that went on in this industry, because I came from other industries. And that's the other thing I mentioned in the comment. I don't know if you saw that, but you know, definitely study other industries. You know, I wasn't going to come on, but I saw Topher come on. I seen him get heated, and I had to come on here and support him because, quite frankly, you know, I love how Chris put it. But you know, you overgeneralized. You used the word telemarketing. You also talked about the 80s. Bro, you were born in 1992. You weren't even around in the 80s. So what do you know, right? You spent 4 years in New York City working for Western Union. I don't necessarily call that a lot of experience in the – maybe there's a lot of old people that work there. I'm a 49-year-old guy that has my own podcast that does social selling, whatever you want to call it. But I don't put lines between the two departments. I don't build silos between the two departments. You know, that's the biggest problem in the issue. You know, marketing leader, sales leader should all be based on revenue. No matter what, if you have demand gen, if you have demand gen and you've got your website out there and you're doing great SEO and you're wealthy and you can afford all those things and you can get people to come to your website right away, and then you can market to those people and nurture those people to come in, you still have to bring them through a sales motion, right? Which most marketing people don't know how to do. They don't understand the concept sometimes behind, you know, the idiosyncrasies of a conversation and what makes people actually buy or don't buy, even when they're inside your sales funnel when they came inbound. So I think sales is always going to be a prevalent thing. I don't necessarily want to say I'm a marketer or I'm a sales guy or I'm a marketing person inside a sales guy. That's all just jargon to sell not only your book, but 100 other people's books, frankly. Okay. So as soon as we start treating the role as we're all trying to get somebody to eventually buy our product, we're trying to solve a problem like Eddie talks about, which is actually probably the better way to say it. That's when the silos break down. That's when you start to realize it's not just marketing-led. First of all, you say marketing-led growth. Okay, growth. That implies there's already a base. You know, you talk about founder-led growth. How do you think that founder goes out and does it? Referrals. He markets himself. He goes and he starts conversations with people, and he gets his product sold, or he gets his product used so that they eventually buy it. There's always a sales aspect. Do you have kids? Do you have to put your kid to sleep at night? There's sales in there. Everybody's a salesperson in and of themselves, right?
Yeah,
so as soon as we
maybe-
start
maybe one
realizing
thing that I would help, maybe that wasn't clarified, is the definition of like
you don't
sales.
have to defend yourself, man. You just have to like understand the perspective that I'm trying to bring here, bro. Each time that somebody says something, your first reaction is to defend what you just said. I'm not attacking what you said. In fact, I agree with a lot of what you said. All I'm trying to say is your overgeneralizations, happen to knock on some of the people here, both young and old, that do it every day. And frankly, I don't telemarket.
No, it really shouldn't knock on you guys. I mean, it's
I don't
really
telemarket.
Well, and some industries just don't have LinkedIn. This is a thing that like
Exactly.
I've had coaching clients who like they are selling into these worlds where like they are not on LinkedIn and they are not on all the social media platforms, and it's very old school. And if you want to talk about sales at like a real level, it's a guy who lives a couple blocks away from me in Chicago who goes and sells water bottles outside a Cubs game, and it's like the sales skills are the sales skills. And it's like, to your example, Nelson, yeah, you know what? Sometimes you show up to the, ballpark or whatever, and the guy's just like, hey, peanuts, $2. These are going to cost you $8 inside. And like, he walked up to me and was like, buy my food. And I'm like, that's a good idea. Here's my money. I'll buy some for my family. And it's like, we have turned, like, B2B SaaS has turned sales into this evil, sophisticated, multi-layered process. And I think that obscures from the fact that like sales is a separate skill from selling. And at some point, someone needs to ask for the money. And marketers like it when that's a pop-up ad or that's a shopping cart or that's something online. But not every deal works that way. Sometimes you are selling construction equipment or something and you're on site, and like a person actually has to make that ask. And just because you're asking and just because they might say, no, I don't want that, doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah. So one thing I just wanted to clarify, and it's not so much defending myself as it's to help clarify what my ideas are and how I define stuff and what to maybe help your guys' thinking. So, and also I find a lot of the feedback that I've been getting, it's just helpful in my thinking as well. So I appreciate all this, and I don't take any of this stuff personally. And so the way I see sales in relation to marketing and how it's different is that sales takes already interested buyers from marketing and helps those buyers to evaluate. But these are buyers that explicitly request to speak to sales. So you go to a shoe store, right? You go up to the salesperson, you're there to buy shoes, but you need some help. You got a question and you want the salesperson's help, right? And buyers in B2B, they want the salesperson, they go to request a demo. Now, marketing, they're like the point guard, right? In basketball to like, they can shoot the ball, they can generate customers, they can generate free trial activations, and they can also, to the extent that buyers want sales help, give a pass to the center, give a pass to sales. And hopefully a very good pass that's like a layup in, and sales is able to just have a slam dunk. And so that website demo request, hopefully marketing's done a good job. They're well informed, they're serious about buying. Those are the buyers that sales loves. To the extent, again, that those buyers don't, they want sales help. They don't want, or it's not possible for them to buy on the website or to try the product on the website. They want and need to speak to sales. They've got that option for sales. So I think that's the proper role for sales and how sales is different from marketing. But what marketing is doing, marketing is generating this interest. They are generating this demand. So marketing is the cause and sort of sales could be the effect if you think about it that way. But marketing is generating all this demand, and ideally,
but
no,
might that be
it's not just the
informed?
bottom of the funnel, it's also the top of the funnel. So
Might that be informed by the limitations of your experience, though? It sounds like the issues you had with sales were issues that you had with your sales organization, and the marketing you have in mind, it looks a lot like your solution to that specific form of sales that you didn't agree with. But we're like me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth there, Mark, but there's a whole wide world of marketing and sales that is much bigger than that, and in some cases is much more interpersonal than that, where like I couldn't imagine just like doing Twitter and LinkedIn stuff and like it just doesn't work, and it's like I've seen people do this well, and I've seen people do it unethically, and your definition, I feel, just paints so many people who are doing it well and are doing it ethically with this broad brush of spam, which I would argue many of the most annoying people on LinkedIn, Twitter, they don't fall into your definition of spam, but it drives me nuts. And I'm like, this shit is all I see all day. And I would rather have these conversations with these wonderful people on this platform without experiencing this. And to me, it's just bizarre that like, that's all okay. But like somebody like handing out, like stuff for his pizza restaurant or something is spam. And it's like, yeah, some of it is spam, but if you want that pizza, and it is capital. And that's the thing is like, I didn't make the rules of capitalism, but like I have to feed myself. So like I have to go make money, that involves asking for it at some point in the process.
And the bottom line is it's very important to work those other channels and to, do what we're doing and create demand and generate it in this natural way. But quite frankly, that's maybe the ultimate problem. The VCs are not going to let you take the time to do that, right? Like you just don't have the time. Some businesses have to go out and prove product market fit. So a lot of times the fastest way to do that is to have a conversation over the phone. And, my biggest thing that I just didn't like what you said. I mean, I agree with some of the stuff you said. Absolutely. But one of the things I don't like is calling it telemarketing. Telemarketing is the guy who really calls you up and tries to sell you SEO services from India. Telemarketing is somebody who's trying to call me and upgrade my cable. Telemarketing is somebody, I don't telemarket. I have conversations with people to see whether or not they have a problem.
Calling it telemarketing. To me, it feels like more of a reason that it should all just fall under.
What if it's Doctors Without Borders? What if Doctors Without Borders is like, hey, do you want to donate blood?
I'll give you that, Jeff.
Is that unethical? If somebody, that's a cold call. You did not consent to that.
They picked up the phone. They consented. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's very ethically. It's unclear.
I think Zach would agree with me on that.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that because you make a conscious decision when you answer your phone, right? Especially if it's an unknown number, you're agreeing to engage with whoever's on the other end of that, to some degree, right? Whether or not that conversation is relevant to you, like the purpose of reaching out and having a real-time conversation with somebody is to invite them to a future conversation, right? It's not about telling them something.
And they might guilt you. That's the thing too. I try to tell people is like, look at every charity you love. Look at every nonprofit that is doing amazing work that is not being done by governments, right? What do? They manipulate your guilt. Because that's what they need to do. And if you ask if you poll a group of people and say, hey, do you like it when organizations exploit your guilt so you'll give them donations? They'll say, no, I'm going to press the no button. I want to never be bothered. But if you ask them, like, should people donate to Doctors Without Borders so we can save lives in countries where people are dying? People say, of course, that's the moral thing, And it's like, I find it so hard to just... because they're sending a bunch of emails or because they're sending a bunch of calls, that it's this unethical thing that they've done, and now they're in this category of like, this is wrong. And it's like, you can have a good cause and use the wrong methods to promote it, and you can have a terrible cause and use methods that don't fail the spam test. And I just feel it's just not a constructive way of like thinking about communication.
Well, plus, I think...
Go ahead.
I think that we have to talk about the fact that these things overlap like nobody's business. Like when you're talking about like Eddie and Jesse, right? So Jesse's a marketer and she's going to put out data, right? So like, hey, I've got this, I've got that. Maybe you're interested, maybe you're not. And she's going to put out content and you're going to call it content marketing. But if Eddie does something on his private, like LinkedIn, and he's like, hey, we've got Whiskey Wednesday happening and this is happening. You might not call it content marketing, but it's kind of the same thing. But what Jesse's talking about with Eddie, where he's getting in on the comments and he's engaging with people, to me, that's the biggest difference between marketing and selling, is that with marketing, you're doing passive action. You're trying to get people to come to you and engage to you. And because they came to your website, you're taking that as consent. or because they came into your retail store, you're taking that as consent. Whereas with the salesperson, they're in your comments and they're like, hey, what's going on? And you're forming a relationship. And as you form that relationship, that's how they're getting engagement. But they actively got that. They went out and solicited you coming to them. They invited you to that conversation.
So what I would say
And
that both Eddie and Jesse are doing social media marketing and content marketing, and that's posting, commenting, connecting, following. And it's not sending someone a connect and pitch or pitch
No,
slap.
I
Like, you know,
agree.
right.
I'm
So
not-
so it's the
I'm
job
not
of a
saying
social,
that's a
I would say it's the
spam
job of a
situation.
social media marketer to engage with people in the comments, and you're having conversations with them. Now that's what marketing is doing, is having proper conversations in everything that it does. It's content marketing, it's website, it's free trial, it's events, it's communities, it's partnerships, it's referral, affiliates, everything that marketing's done. It's trying to basically put information out there, and when they're engaging with their buyers, they're having
Who
those
do
sort
those
of
affiliates
conversations
go to?
on social
But
media.
again, I think the term proper is an interesting
most-
phrase.
Yes.
Because, for example, if I go to your retail store, so I chose to come in, and maybe I did because you marketed to me. I saw an ad and I was like, oh, these shoes are awesome. I'm going to come in. So I come into your store because you marketed to me. I chose to be there. However, when I go to cash out, you know what I don't choose to do is like offer you my email. I am not offering that to you, but you might tell me that I have to give you my email or I can't get my receipt. So now you have my email and you can market to me. That's not proper marketing. That is no different than sales sending me an unsolicited email. I didn't give you my email because I want your shit. I gave you my email because you made me. And
Yeah,
now
so
you
I
have
don't
my
think that's
data and
appropriate.
you're
For the
gonna send
record, I
stuff
don't
to
think
me.
that's appropriate. If, as I said, it doesn't matter who does the spam. If it's marketing, if it's finance, if it's HR. If marketing takes your email address not to deliver, let's say, hey, we need to send you the receipt, or we need your email because we're going to invite you to this webinar. We actually need to send you a thing for the email. But if we're going to take your contact information and then opt you in without your consent to solicitations, to spam, that's wrong and inappropriate. And I don't think that marketing should be doing that. And that's a case where marketing is doing spam. So I don't think that's appropriate. Now, sorry, what's the, I don't see your name, but you mentioned
Mandy.
Mandy. Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm just pointing at the screen here,
That's okay.
but something else that the gentleman with the black, the gray T-shirt and the black sweater. What was your name?
Mark.
Mark. Okay. Hey, so, thanks there for your feedback. One thing I would say is, you mentioned, so let's say you're a young company, you're a startup, right? Do you have to go out there and spam people according to my definition in order to get your product out there? And actually you don't. And Jesse is an example of that, where you basically, you have a product. If you're a founder, there's a lot of different ways to do proper marketing without spamming people when you're a young company, without much resources to spend on, let's say, ads. You can, first of all, you give that product away for free. You give it to your friends, your family, to investors. They tell
You
people
got to
about
have
something.
money to give it something away for free to investors. That's a luxury that you only have if you have money.
Well, hold up. So whatever, you give it to friends and your family. You get your network.
Free is expensive if it's your labor. You need to be rich to give your labor away for free.
And then you can also invite people to say, hey, like, I'm building this product. And you do what's called product marketing feedback interviews, where it's like, either you have your product for free, but you can also interview people and say, hey, I'm trying to build this out, looking to ask just questions on, but you don't, it's a non-sales situation.
Why is that?
You're not buying that, but
yes, Zach's right. Listen, Zach, take it, Zach.
The difference? Because what you're doing, you're selling them on the idea that, hey, my product has validity. And you're trying to.
They're like, Nelson's coercing me with his spam again. I guess I'll listen so he's not angry.
Identical to the process of sales development when it's done properly, because the idea.
He used the word proper. I have to talk to Nelson about his free product. I guess I have to download it.
A problem, right? You highlight a potential problem in their business, and you invite them to a conversation about the possibility of solving.
But it's a sales situation.
But so is taking your product.
Because it's you doing it. That's the difference. When you do it, it's not spam.
It's the same thing. Because listen, Nelson, there's no monetary exchange in in sales development, right? Like immediately in that conversation, all you're doing is presenting an idea.
You're dropping the
to someone.
context of an SDR reaching out to set an appointment for sales versus a founder who's trying to build a product, who's got who's basically saying, I'm the founder of this product. I'm trying to go out to a market and get some feedback from people and
So
say
if
like, hey, are you interested in that?
But if his
They're
VA
out-
in India does it, if his VA in India does
out-
it on LinkedIn DM, Nelson's okay with it. If he has an SDR do it, it's a problem. If he has, hey, VA in India, here's my LinkedIn login. Go send this DM asking because I'm a founder and I want people to download my free trial. That is 100% ethical according to your framework.
What do you
So-
think, Emily?
Well, first of all, when you when I say that you invite people to your to these product marketing interviews, these are people, first of all, in your network that you have a relationship with, that you can cash in on.
How
And
does someone
so-
become part of your network?
Well, you go and you do networking. LinkedIn is a 24/7 networking platform.
Do you
go to
request?
events, or
Do you
when
request?
when you are
Zach, we
working
just got
in-
3 more tonight.
You've got coworkers, or you join communities like this. You start to develop your network of people, and so now there's that. So you've got users, and they tell other people. You got word of mouth. You're building your referrals. You've also got customers. You've got your
So
website.
referrals are
You've got
selling
your
for you. So
Yes,
if they're
your
doing it, so if
customers-
they're working for you for free, that's okay.
Well, if your customers are referring their peers to you, that's a good thing. That's a good byproduct of a good product experience and a good marketing. That's like the holy grail, word of mouth and referrals. It's kind of like, it's like outsourcing your marketing. That's the ideal of peer referrals.
It's just transforming it into something else. You're taking that same thing
Yeah, listen.
and it's just in a different avenue.
This week I set 3 meetings off email, 2 meetings off of 2 or 3 meetings off of social, and probably 4 meetings on the phone, and I'm happy with that, right? So there'll always be a combination of things, no matter what anybody does, what any business, any industry, you got to have both. That's the bottom line, and it's not
there's
all
opportunity
spam.
cost, and it's
When I
relative
have-
to what. So if you were,
Yeah,
let's
because
say,
I
had a-
cost
had-
$150,000 a year, but I'm going to deliver results every day.
Oh, I can do the Nelson method now that I've been running my business for a year and a half, and I have people coming in. I have amazing content that I've spent a year and a half of time and labor and money investing in. You know, I did a year and a half ago. I called local businesses and I said, "Hey, I'm Chris Bogue. You don't know me. Can I talk to you about video?" And you know what? Some percentage of them did, and that's how I started a business. And I don't think that's unethical.
No.
I don't think that phone number is on their website. I called them. I said, "Hey, I'm Chris Bogue. You do not know me. I think I can help you with video.
You can hang up or roll the dice."
And you know what? They did. And I asked, "Can I have your email address? Can I send you more information?" And you know what? I got the sale and I started my business, and it's like that would be totally unethical because I did not have enough money to be ethical by your framework. And now I'm in a different place. Now I could do it totally on LinkedIn and social. People are requesting to me. They're like, "Oh, can we have a consultation about this and that?" And it's like, yeah, is that way easier than asking for people? Yes. Did I have the luxury of doing that when I had nothing? No, I had to pick up the phone.
You know what I think is way more unethical in terms of business is when you walk into a store that you consent to be at and a salesperson says nothing to you.
That's true.
That's even worse, right?
Because
Because
someone's walking into your storefront, right, and they're there to search, and it's like a customer service or a sales thing. It is polite to say welcome, or you have a greeter or something like that, right? And that's fine. So, but if I wouldn't conflate that analogy exactly to B2B to say, hey, this person fits our ICP, so I'm just going to go and telemarket them, or just go and send them an email or something like that.
I mean, touche. B2B, you'll never hear me defend B2B because they're terrible. And I have a lot of fun making fun of how shitty and dehumanizing and outdated their processes are, you know? But it's like, that's just the definition of spam that you provide extends far beyond B2B.
Well, we have a visitor. It looks like Karen was able to show up. Hi, Karen. Thanks for joining us. Karen, are you there?
She always starts out like she can't hear.
Muted.
Hello,
Yeah, we can hear
you.
you. Yep.
All right, I'm sorry. I was having some microphone issues here, but I'm angry. And let me tell you something about those SAS kids. They keep calling my cell phone. And Nelson, you're the best. I love you so much. And there's
Thanks.
nothing better than this show.
So this is the Karen I've heard so much about.
This is Karen.
Nelson, You know me. Come on, don't play shy.
That's great. That's great.
Listen, I download ebooks and then these kids spam me and I want all the SaaS kids fired. Every one of these SDRs needs to be fired and terminated from their job. And I don't want them calling my cell phone anymore. I'm on the do not call list. Take me off your list.
Karen got a new haircut. Your sassy new hair.
Hey, thanks. Hey, thanks, Chris.
SAAS, new hair.
I downloaded an ebook today, and I had 3 SaaS kids call me right after I downloaded it. And I wasn't happy about it. I got a pretty big HR department to run here, and I was watching little Johnny on the soccer field right after work at 3:45.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, I feel you. And I think a
Thanks,
lot of
Jesse.
buyers are in your shoes, and that's why they've got the silence unknown calling feature. And that's why if you look at telemarketing statistics, like I use in the book where I break down the telemarketing statistics from Connect and Sell, how awful it is even for them. And it's actually their proper marketing that's driving most of their growth and profits. And even for them, their telemarketing probably is unnecessary and does more harm than good relative to their proper marketing. And so I break down the book, like if you're a founder, what type of marketing should you do? If you're bootstrapped, and I can even relate my own example of building this sort of startup in the book of how I went about and did proper marketing instead of spamming people.
I could listen to Nelson all night.
So for people that
it's the use of proper, it's your way or the highway. I'll agree with everyone else here. You have some great points on some things that could be extremely relevant, even in my outreach and what I'm doing. It's when you go to that next step, it's when you go to that next level where you're trying to draw up attention or break the algorithm or whatever it is, where you're trying to be controversial, and it works. I see you in my feed all the time. I've commented on your stuff before. But it's when you go and demonize what the other half is doing where it's a little bit far for me. I think there's plenty of room. And it's the reason why this exists. Sorry?
You never commented on my post, Topher.
Well, Karen, it's because you won't accept my invite. I've been trying to send you a bottle of Chardonnay for like 3 months now to take to your HOA meeting.
Well, the only person I'd accept it from would be Nelson, because we jointly don't like the SaaS kids. These pesky SaaS kids keep rolling around and stealing our numbers and calling us and spamming us with bad marketing or sales with ebooks.
Okay.
Well, anyways, I gotta get going. I just got the new ebook from Gong, so I'm gonna let you go. Thanks a lot for the great content, Gong.
Glad you enjoyed.
Can't wait to see y'all next week.
Toodles.
See ya. Bye.
Hi, Karen.
Bye, Karen.
That's Karen.
Who yelled by Karen in the background?
I've been waiting for this. I'm like, man, Nelson and Karen.
Oh,
Your mic is behind your head.
Oh, yeah, something happened with your
Can't
mic,
hear you.
Chris.
No, you got to twist your mic down.
I was like, oh. I was waiting for this pairing. I'm very much about pairs. I believe that people are funnier in pairs. It's why I like this show. I like Jesse and Eddie as a pair. And I'm like, Nelson and Karen are like, they both hit such like points where you're like, yes, that is what's wrong.
And I would say one thing I don't like about what Karen said is the idea that you should just fire and terminate sales development. Again, I think that sales development is good talent stuck in a bad role. Many of them are seeking to escape as fast as possible to more productive and fulfilling careers. And so the best thing that you can do is to unlock that creativity and put them and help them transition to marketing, to sales, or to operations. And so
fulfillment in your career is obviously personal, self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, of course. Now, if someone enjoys the role of sales development, and that is, then all the power to them. They want to stay in that role. Now, if someone comes along and says, "Hey, it's actually a better use of the company's budget and investment to spend that on marketing to generate demand as opposed to sales development," then you're going to probably have to find a new job and find a company that does want to employ you. Now,
but they're not going to go away. That's the point, too. You know that there's not always. It's kind of like I always see these people who market on LinkedIn, their LinkedIn marketing services, which doesn't mean shit to me if my client or prospect isn't on LinkedIn. You know, so, and I'll take that to my grave, you know, or on Instagram or on Facebook, whatever. You have to go where your customer is. You got to go. If your customer isn't building community, regardless of age, then you're not going to find them in a community. You're not going to find them on the dark web. You're not going to find them on WhatsApp, you know? So
where
you
you're
have
not going
to,
to find me is in my email inbox.
you have to,
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
always
so-
find you in your email inbox. That's
Yeah,
the thing,
so-
or text message.
Marketing 101 is you got to find out where your buyers are consuming information online, right? Or in person at events,
Sure.
or in groups. And so you're trying to figure out, oh, what social media platforms you're on? How are you hearing about vendors? And so the interview questions I asked, and this is what like
Again, that
basic
sounds like
founders
So
do.
you can
Overall,
get
I
in
don't-
front of them though,
Nope.
because they otherwise wouldn't let you in front of them. They
Well, yeah,
wouldn't want-
you have to market in channels and areas where your buyers are hanging out, but not just marketing or promotion is not synonymous with spam. There's a certain definition of spam.
And we know your definition of spam. I'm actually saying that being like, oh, let's go where our people are and we'll create content for them. That's what I do. It works really well. That is more deceptive, actually, and I would argue that can be more dangerous. Again, just because
This is how you acquired that information.
yeah, or again, it's like, and again, and I'm just being fully transparent here because I run my own business. I sell my own consulting services in my course and whatnot and stuff. But oftentimes when I've actually closed a deal, I've had people say to me, I don't even remember how you were introduced to me. Like, I don't even remember how I found you. And it's because I showed up on their social platform of choice in a conversation that I know they're talking about, right? And again, some SDR who's like half hungover on a Thursday morning is not going to think to do that. I just did what they wanted to do, and what I say here is SDR teams are a blunt instrument. An Eddie Banham, a Jesse Lizak, a Nelson Gilliat, a Chris Bogue, we are a surgical knife. But you are still making that cut somewhere. And there's still always some point in the process where they'd rather do something else. And you're like, no, let me show you about the thing I want to show you about. And again, I like marketing ads better than I like cold callers, but I also know there's a trade-off with that. And the trade-off is maybe I'm okay with being on your list today. What happens if a year from now you're liquidating your company and you sell my email address? I have no idea what's going to happen to that, but I'm not thinking about it, right? Because it's not annoying me like the person trying to call me while I'm in the middle of a meeting. So it's like I have given away more to that. I have eroded this very like fundamental sense of privacy that I'm supposed to have. But it wasn't as unpleasant as taking a cold call. So cold calls are unethical. And whatever the hell this is that's happening without me realizing it is ethical, and like intellectually I know that can't be true. I know like our grandkids are going to be like, what the hell did you do? You just let them spy on your brain and manipulate you when you're supposed to be working? And it's just like, this is just how it's done currently, but it's still coercion.
Like to your point on the ethicality and legality, I think if you look at how people are viewing their privacy and their personal information and how smart companies and social media platforms are trying to protect that, and that there are dumb companies who are not, and they're suffering the consequences. But there is this movement where buyers or anyone
the smart companies abuse your data.
Well, nobody
have you
has
ever
their-
heard of
no
Facebook, bro?
Half the companies don't have phone numbers on there. Anybody in SaaS, especially cybersecurity,
You don't need someone's
there's no
phone number when you've got a
on
cookie
there.
on their computer and you're in their brain, and every time they browse pornography, they happen to see your ad. You get them where they're most unguarded. And that is like, again, passes the Nelson Gilliat ethics test. But I'm like, holy crap. That's, if you objectively think about it, that's 1,000,000 times worse than cold calling. But as a user, as an irrational person, I'm like, oh, accept all cookies? Great. Oh, cold
that?
caller, fuck you.
Eddie,
I'm
is
going
that
to
a
make my
whippet?
LinkedIn post.
What is
Is
that?
that a whippet? You have a whippet or a Italian Greyhound?
What is that, Eddie?
Tell us.
It's a toy.
Chihuahua.
Oh, I used to have
Muted.
a whippet. I thought it was a whippet. It
What's
looks
a
just like a
whippet?
whippet.
We can't hear you.
Oh man, I got
I'm on
super
mute.
excited
Sorry,
for
it's
a
an
second.
Italian Greyhound. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, it is Italian Greyhound. Yeah.
So precious.
He's a big baby.
Oh
He's
my
a big
God.
baby.
Aww.
Yeah, my wife got him when we were like a year and a half in dating. Not even a year, like a year in. Because the second year we basically got pregnant. So that's how I remember the timeline.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just like he thinks he's a baby.
He looks like a little fawn.
Like look at how when I hold him,
I thought it was a deer.
They're miniature greyhounds.
Look how he
So it's
sits.
like the Italian greyhound's the
baby.
smallest, then the whippet, and then
He's
the
7 years
greyhound.
old. 7 years old, but he thinks he's a child.
Ooh, let's talk about how puppies are unethical. So if I pick up a puppy, if I pick up my dog and I'm like, look at Biscuit, mwah, 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 I will get extra engagement, and that allows me to sell extra units of my bullshit. That's
spam.
probably bad for America, you know? But it's like, but it works. It works. And it's like, if you're a person who knows how to grab someone's attention right now, you have the advantage over more worthwhile causes run by boring marketing teams.
Well, I'm going to grab your attention really quick, and I want to ask you guys, what do you all think of that app? And maybe you haven't heard of it. Is Gated, where they like gate CEOs' email inboxes with like a donation to whatever charity of your choice. Have you guys heard of this? So like in order,
Yeah, it's
Run
a free tool, email
Yeah.
spam filter tool, where basically it will divert unknown senders, aka spammers in particular, to a folder within your inbox. Challenge those people to pay to a charity of your choice. If they do pay to the charity, that gets their email out of that filter into the main inbox. And so this has become more a viral tool as a way for a lot of particularly busy people with busy inboxes to really up the anti-spam filter.
It's profiting off of spam. It's profiting off of spam. Are you tired of getting spam? Why don't you, like make some money off
Monetize it.
that?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
if you want
wha-
to email me, then maybe you should donate to Planned Parenthood. Then do you really want to email me?
yeah. I mean, again, it's coercion by another means, right? I don't want to tell you no. I don't want to ask you to donate to Planned Parenthood. Why don't I just solve this problem by like, you can go deal with all of that, and I'll just ignore your email anyway. But I don't know. I don't, I think the people who run the company are very nice. I do not use it. I give away content for free. I will give away my secrets for free. I also sell products that you can pay for. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's spam by a different name. But I think a lot of things are spam by a different name, including what I do. What I do is technically spam, and I just say, instead of arguing that it's not, I just fully embrace it and say, okay, well, what's the most delightful way I can deliver my spam? What's the least irritating way I could do that? But in my heart of hearts, I know it's disruptive.
I also feel like a call isn't necessarily viewed by the person as spam. I think the real
Oh, it is by me, especially when it says spam call when it's ringing.
No, I mean, yes, there is that potential spam, but if there's a number and it's legit, right? Like, I feel like they pick up the phone, again, that argument, and it's not like, to them, even if they're annoyed by it, right? It's different than like the publicized word of the word spam. It means to most of the generalized public, like I'm talking about everybody, like everybody from 0 to 100.
You said that you don't like telemarketers, and you listed some examples. If you look
I said
on LinkedIn,
I don't
you will
telemarket.
hear-
I didn't say I didn't like. I said I don't like telemarketers calling.
We
me.
all love
right.
telemarketers.
Right, but you don't like using the word telemarketer because of what it connotes. And
Sure.
it's no different than B2B buyers. And when you see on LinkedIn all the pushback against B2B buyers from all of the telemarketing that they get from sales development or whatever, or sales.
See, I don't give a shit because I don't do that. Like,
well,
that's my point.
You should give a
Like,
shit if you're.
No, I shouldn't, because my market. No, because the people that I market to, bro, the people I market to respond to me because I don't treat them like they're being telemarketed.
Exactly.
What's your role
And
in the
that's
company?
I own a piece of the company. I don't know. What do you want?
Are you a seller, or what's your position at the
I
company?
sell, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but if you are the founder of the company, or if you're,
I am one of the founders.
Okay. So yeah. So then, if you're a founder of the company, then these are something that you should be considering: is what other alternative marketing tactics that might.
No, but I use those, Nelson. That's what I'm
and-
trying to tell you. I have a podcast. I am a community manager. I do social selling, social marketing, whatever. I just don't telemarket. That's my point.
Well, yeah,
Well,
and
I have
again,
conversations with people who want to have conversations with me. I have guys who met me 5 seconds ago who said, because I was going down to Raleigh in 2 weeks, he said if he was in town, he'd have a drink with me. Maybe he was gassing me up. I don't really give a shit. But he was comfortable enough in that conversation to say something like that to me. And he met me 30 seconds ago on the phone. That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's a fine line to be drawn to people who do it well and do it successfully than what you're calling telemarketing is what I'm trying to get at.
And
Yeah,
the key is too, people's like, I mean, thousands and thousands have calls been made.
I've made 30,000 calls in the last 9 months.
There you
Can
go.
you tell me you have the same kind of data about cold calling?
The thing is, how many of those people tell you to F off, Mark? Like, not many of them, right? It's a rare thing, right? People aren't as
the people who tell me to fuck off don't answer the phone.
Right. That's the thing. Like, it's hit or miss whether or not, you know, people are going to answer, but the conversation that you have is the key, right? And how you approach that. That's what makes the difference between telemarketing and, you know, an actual conversation, because a telemarketer is just reading off a script and, you know, trying to drive a product down your throat, and that's it. Like,
I mean, so for me, I view, and again, this is why I've been like picking on Nelson all night, is just because like ethics for me, the way I think, I'm a very direct person. And I don't have a set ethical code. I don't have a really precise way of like sorting like who are the good people and who are the bad people. I'm like a person who like likes people, you know. I'm just like, I just don't have that way of like thinking about it. But yeah, it's just like in my mind, I'm always trying to get it down to like one-on-one communication. You know, like how can I get rid of all the bullshit? How can I get rid of all the talking points? How can I just talk to this person to understand if they want what I'd sell or not, you know? And like, I agree with a lot of what Nelson says, because I see how companies hire these BDRs and fire them. And I'm like, this is insane. And this is terrible for mental health. And this is a genuinely toxic practice. But again, it's like, I do a way of like, when I pick up the phone and call people, I build, you know, like, there's a way that, again, violates your ethical rules, but I don't feel is unethical, and the people I'm calling don't feel it's unethical.
Yeah, so
and then again, I look at but I look at social selling, and again, it's the fact that the people who don't fit your definition of unethical, where I scroll through LinkedIn and I'm like, this is such fucking bullshit. I hate having to watch this shit. I hate that this shit works. I hate that they're constantly pushing this in my face. I hate that they figured out how they can constantly tell me about their stupid, you know, LinkedIn fame because they figured out how the algorithm works. But I'm not going to like condemn them for that. I'm just like, all right, well, you beat me, you know, like you figured it out. Good for you. I don't like it.
I just want to say that I try to avoid. I'm not trying to go down this ethicality route. That's not the purpose of my message, is like morality and ethicality of spam and contact information, although that's an aspect of it, particularly taking people's contact information without their consent and sending them marketing solicitations. But the point that I'm trying to make is, if business and financial economic one, and the fact that if you compare spam to proper marketing, that there's an opportunity cost, and that relative to marketing, that spam or proper marketing.
But you say you're not talking about ethics, but when you call one thing spam and you call one thing proper marketing, that is an ethical judgment. Continue.
Yeah. So it's that analysis of like helping people compare their sales development to their marketing, compare their spam to their other marketing efforts against a whole host of different quantitative metrics and qualitative feedback from their buyers to show, and their attribution to show that they should reinvest their resources, and that spam is unnecessary and does more harm than good. But again, bad marketing is better than zero marketing. Good marketing is better than bad marketing. So if you're not, if you're just not doing any marketing and you don't know how to do marketing, you know, oftentimes that's where people will start with spam, because they just don't know how to do marketing, particularly if they're not a marketing background. One thing I am curious, Emily, you haven't had a chance to say anything yet. Would love your thoughts or any questions or comments.
Yeah, I guess what I've been thinking about a lot that you said earlier that I disagree with structurally, but I agree with in some ways, is how you said sales should report to marketing. And I don't even want to get into at this point, like, should that be how they report to it? I just want to kind of talk about how I think about it in my role. So I'm a marketer, but the way I think about it and how I approach work is that I report to sales, regardless of who my boss is, because I'm really good at like driving the demand, driving the top of funnel, getting people in. But my skill set isn't so much closing, getting them to sign on the dotted line, getting them to commit to a higher dollar value. And so I think of it that way so that anything I bring in, it, like you said earlier, it's like a layup for them. So maybe my boss is marketing, but I think if salespeople reported to me, they would learn like leadership principles and like things about capturing the masses. But I'm actually at my new company, Nectar, I don't have MQL goals. I don't have any of that. It's all revenue goals, which is so cool for me because I think about it this way. And I'm like, I work for you, sales team. So like I agree with so many of your marketing points coming from the side of a marketer. But on that one, I was like, that's not how I think about it, even if the structure was that way. And my boss was technically a marketing person. I still feel like I like work for the sales team and want to like enable.
I posted that today. I said, I talked to a guy on the phone who said his SDRs report to marketing. I said, congratulations. That's exactly the way it should be.
Yeah. So Emily, to your point about whether or not sales reporting to marketing. So there's two senses in which you meant there. One is just like, hey, who does
That's not
marketing
sales.
like
That's
ultimately
business.
report to? Is it going to be a sales leader? Is it going to be the CEO? I think that in that sense, it should be to the CEO. It should not be to sales, for the reason that oftentimes a salesperson is, because they'll be calling the marketing shots, and chances are they're going to be calling sales-led growth shots. And I think that that's a huge mistake, and one of the reasons why we're still stuck in sales-led growth from the 1980s. And so I think particularly because marketing is the key growth driver and profit driver, they're the one generating awareness and demand and influencing most, if not all, of the buyer's decision to purchase. They have most of the power today. They have over the buyer. They've got it's what sales used to be back in the day, where sales had most of that information. Now it's marketing giving most of that information. So it's because of that I don't think that marketing should report into sales. And that sales should report to marketing, if anything. Now, the other point that you mentioned is, marketing is also, for the buyers that don't want to just buy on the website or don't just want to try the product on the website and actually want to speak to sales, marketing has to be a bridge between and connect those buyers to sales. And so in that sense, marketing is like the point guard, right? But you can think of the point guard relationship like marketing today is Michael Jordan, whereas it used to be sales back in the day was the Michael Jordan, or who's a center, who's a really good, Shaquille O'Neal, and was the big dog. But now it's marketing that's the big dog. And so I say that even though that sales can or marketing can give sales website demo requests or buyers that request sales' help, in other words, leads for sales, marketing is still bringing that buyer mostly through the buying journey, 80% plus. And so
I don't think they're that different.
I recommend that. See ya. That in that sense, that sales actually supports marketing, because what buyers want from sales is mostly marketing, and then if they need a human, it's mostly post-sale fulfillment or mostly customer success. So I think
sales and marketing is blending. It's blending.
Rev operations.
Yeah, it's blending, and like you can cite a poll of like, customers said that they want it to be this one thing, but it's like, hey, those are self-interested marketing companies asking for data. They're conducting surveys, and like, that's not always, again, half of what marketing does is invisible to the user, so it's like the people who want to talk to sales, that's a very, 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 very small percentage of the people who exist out there. And it certainly doesn't reflect the amount of people who are being influenced. And again, I just, if you ask somebody if they want to be like discreetly influenced by brands through social events, they're like, I don't know. I have strong opinions, and you've all heard them. So
yeah, this show's definitely been bananas, don't you guys think?
That was the point, though, right? That's what you guys like. I always love when you bring in conflicting ideas, and it's like, let's flesh them out.
And just like bring these hard topics to the table, because like honestly, I feel like I feel like everything Nelson's saying is like super grounded, well backed up with information. He's interviewed a bunch of people. He's coming here and he's stating facts. Yet I feel like everyone got a little up in arms with him and like was like,
Oh no, that's
triggered.
an unfair characterization though. He called everything spam. He uses the word spam every
But
sentence.
we
That's
just
bombastic.
of
That's
what that
a
was.
rhetorical appeal. That's not facts
But
and
it just
data.
goes to show
That's
that,
an
like,
emotional appeal.
These
That's not.
topics, like, we don't talk about them, right? And so, of course,
No, we're trying to talk. But again, that's why I chimed in, because everyone on the show is like, oh, well, this is just facts. And I'm like, it's calling everybody spam. That is name calling, and that's effective. And again, we've talked about why that's effective for the LinkedIn algorithm, but that's not facts. Again, that's a couple marketing studies. That's take the biggest, richest. Again, this is the theme we found: is if rich companies are doing it, it's not unethical. Rich companies ask their own users,
Social media
which
has
do
power
you
for
like the marketing that we're doing? And they share their most like. Again, I'm an apostate here.
Yeah, I know. Like, we can agree to disagree. I guess.
Yeah, I'm out.
Bye, Mark Mack. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, man. See ya.
But yeah, I mean, these topics are hard. That was originally what like inspired this whole show. Is like, you could come back and you could approach it the same way with facts and data on the sales side, and still there's going to be disagreements. But
yeah, I'm not even like disagreeing with half of what he's saying. I'm just pointing out logical, it's like the show is very much wants to talk about why the show is good. I'm trying to like point to bigger things that I don't think the argument and the definitions account for. And it's like, I don't think that, I don't know.
I hear you. No, I know.
I think it really comes down to elevating the profession too. Like outbound, there's definitely some shifts that need to take place there in the approach. But just to throw in a bucket of saying it's all garbage and it can't be effective and we just need to dismantle the whole thing, I think that's a bit short-sighted.
Yeah, Chris, it got cut off there. I can't send more than that, but there's a whole good chunk of text. I
read your definitions, Nelson. I heard you.
Yeah, it's just in case for other people, just so they have it there and they can just chew on that, because I think it is important to distinguish the type of work that sales development is doing from marketing and what makes them different, and why sales development is failing and underperforming, and why it's so terrible today, and why it's miserable, and why buyers hate it and are avoiding it and tuning out like crazy, getting gated. They've got the silence unknown callers. They got email filter spam. They are getting better and better at tuning out sales development, which is why sales development is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's become harder to hide that relative to what marketing is doing.
They're going to get good at tuning out marketing too. Again, you change the name, you call it
not
something
this
different.
event. People are going to still be coming to this event because it's proper marketing, because it's good. And this is the type of good marketing, or a podcast, or a SaaSter. That's the difference. Or Chris.
If you can pay to go to SaaSter, if you can pay $1,000, then you become ethical.
Or the LinkedIn social media content marketing that you're doing, Chris, or whatever humorous content that you're doing. So that's the type of marketing that that companies should be doing. And companies
paid. Go fly to San Francisco. Go pay for a hotel and a flight trip. Go stay in San Francisco so you can take LinkedIn photos with LinkedIn influencers and pay $1,000 to get in the door. That's ethical. That's what you're saying, man.
Well, a lot of people want that, and they.
But some people can't afford that. All they can do is pick up the phone and say, "Hey, can I talk to you about possibly hiring my company?"
No, there's a lot of things that you can do for free.
But not most of your solutions.
LinkedIn is free. Podcasting is free.
Not at the level to sustain a business, my friend.
Podcasting is free. Yes, it is. That's how I built my business. That's how a lot of other people have bootstrapped it. You asked Jesse how he bootstrapped his business. A lot of other business founders, they do. And there's a whole
Jesse has a whole he has elite sales experience. He is the cream of the crop, man.
His personal network on LinkedIn because he's done a lot of LinkedIn content.
But most people can't do that. They can't do that. And the only reason he did that is because he has this thorough understanding of this system that you and I both agree has like fundamental moral flaws. But to pretend that everybody can just go do that without having money, it's like you're wrong.
There's a lot of companies who have bootstrapped their way with proper marketing.
I would love everyone to pull up their bootstraps. I don't think that's gonna work. And I have to apologize. I was gonna sign off at 11. I wish I could keep going, but it is like past my
It is
bedtime.
officially Thursday here on the East Coast.
Yes.
Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for your.
I love
I had
some
so
of your
much fun.
stuff. I love all the.
was awesome.
You have so many foundational arguments. I love. I just, again, the
No,
judgment.
I appreciate your feedback, and that's really helpful. And feel free to. We can always chat, or we can.
Yeah,
you
dude,
can
DM
ping
me.
if
I
you got any
love
questions.
thinking about this stuff.
I never really thought of what he was saying as judgmental, so that's where I got shocked. But
You
like,
don't think
I
the
guess
word
it's an
spam is
interesting perspective.
judgmental? I don't.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, Chris, I wasn't going for this like moral, ethical route that you went on. I was just trying to distinguish between sales development and marketing and the type of nature of the difference in marketing and explain the why one is more profitable.
I think we just
than the other.
genuinely disagree on some points, and that's why Whiskey Wednesday exists.
That's okay.
But I
Yeah,
love you
that's
all.
good,
I
man.
love the show. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you.
You know I always bring the hot takes, so I'm gonna peace out for the night.
Please don't
Later,
stop.
man. Take it easy.
Bye.
Emily,
Good night,
Zach,
y'all.
Nelson, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hosting. Zach, pleasure. Emily, thanks for tuning in. Jesse and Eddie, this has been great. Keep up. This is a great event, great community that you've built here. It's been
Thank you
an
so
honor
much.
to join you guys, and I hope to tune in the future as well.
Thank you so much, Nelson. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye, guys.
Bye. And with that,
See ya.
I'm gonna play our closing out video here. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Night.